Check their mic. Okay, we're just gonna wait just a couple more seconds here, make sure our microphones are on, and we got some more chairs coming in before we get totally kicked off here.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Okay. All right, everybody. Welcome to our second meeting of this month. Today is Tuesday, July 15th, 2025. We are obviously live in person here in council chambers with our Zoom component as well. So for those of you in the chambers, we'll have some opportunity for comment at some point, and those online as well. We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order, and Mayor Pro Tem will give the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So please join us.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for the opportunity to come together as a council and as a community tonight to do the work of the city. We ask for your blessing on this meeting, that we can work together for the common cause of our city and for the benefit of our citizens. And we ask for your continued blessing on our community, our state, our country as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody. All right, we'll go ahead and go to roll call as I'm simultaneously trying to join online here. So again, bear with me just a moment. Okay, we'll start off with Member Van Ormond. Here. Councilmember Kurtz.
Present.
Councilmember Ball.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cargill. Councilmember Kennedy.
Present.
And Councilmember Dunn should be online. I'm not yet. Is he on? Okay, can you just make sure he doesn't need to be promoted or anything? Okay, all right, well, he is attending to some family stuff, but he said he would try to join tonight, but in the meantime, if we could have a motion to excuse council members Spencer and Dunn, one for work, one for family, that would be great.
Motion to excuse council members Dunn and Spencer.
Great, thank you. A second by Councilmember Van Ormond. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Now we're up to agenda approval. Are there any requested amendments to the agenda tonight? Go ahead.
Mayor, one proposed amendment I'd like to make is to move item 11A to the next meeting. And I can explain why if there's a second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Real quick, I do want to check with Lisa, make sure that doesn't affect a timeline that is critical for us before we move forward. Okay. I think.
There, it actually does affect the timeline. The Commerce Review requires 120 days. Visions, and then it gets put into incorporated into the entire comp plan. The entire comp plan has to go back to Commerce for another 60 days for us to meet our timeline for this. It's essential that we get this into Commerce for the review. Once you have approved this for planning purposes, there is a very detailed checklist that is tied to what's being submitted that has to be completed for our submittal. We have skinnied up the timeline as much as we possibly could to give as much time as possible for the development of this plan. And so at this point, if we miss, we wait until August 5th. It does.
Second.
I'm sorry,
Is it
August.
second?
Or the next meeting, I don't.
Whatever the date.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give us enough time to get that in and submitted to Commerce for their review. So our intent with this I will say that the Commerce review, this pre-approval is not required, but this is a pretty complex new law that, and we're kind of the guinea pigs. And we haven't, and if we want commerce to approve our comp plan, number one, and number two, to defend us, should we get sued over this? The pre-approval is again in our interest to protect the citizens of Liberty Lake against lawsuit.
So, thank you, Lisa. One of the main reason why I made this motion tonight is because Councilmember Spencer is traveling, and he had sent an email late last week asking that it be postponed because he had a few thoughts that he would like to submit as well as be involved in the vote. So what I'm hearing you say, Lisa, is that it's not necessarily required, but it would be a really good idea to have it done have it done tonight. Is there a way we could do a special meeting for this purpose, perhaps next week or the week after, so that Councilmember Spencer can participate, but then you could still have it done as soon as possible?
It's up to this body. We're able to, if you were able to schedule a special meeting, that would probably eliminate the concern related to getting this to Commerce in time to make this whole process work.
Okay, and if we only submitted it, let's say I need to look at my calendar here to figure out what the first date is. But if we were to wait and do it on it is August 5th, by the way, on August 5th, what does that do again for the timeline?
It makes it incredibly tight for us to fill out the paperwork that needs to go with it, because it again, it has to interact with it. Changes to the document are going to affect that. Again, we scheduled this based upon the availability of the consultants to get this filed. And so that's where I'm at right now. I think that, you know, if you can't accommodate this timeline, we will still do everything in our power to try and get it submitted on time. But again, I feel like our timeline is so tight already. We really made this timeline razor thin for just because we needed the time to get through the process.
And I know that we had received the request from Councilmember Spencer, but we left it on for the purpose of, for a council discussion, because we cannot, every time a big issue comes up, we can't continue to wait until we have a full council. Things happen and life happens for everybody. So if there are no other questions, one more
I'll have
comment.
just one quick comment. When we were talking about this last meeting, we were talking about how important this particular piece was, as well as the entire comprehensive plan. So I would just be of the opinion that we owe it to the community to make sure the entire council is involved in this discussion and can cast a vote on that. I would hate to have just two of the council members gone and not be able to have that comment, even if it means having to come back and do a special meeting to increase the timeline.
And I just want to share with you that the risk that I see, and I know that you're aware of this, is that we are not meeting the target for greenhouse gas reduction because we don't believe that there's any way we can meet it with the levers that we have in our control. And that is the thing that probably is most important to get Commerce to recognize and have that conversation with them because we may be in jeopardy of approval if we don't get it into them in advance, or we may find ourselves in the 11th hour totally rewriting this chapter.
Any other comments before we move on? Councilmember Kurtz.
I voted before, I think, to make sure that we had somebody here for a different topic at a different time. And I do support those things generally, but if it's going to impact city business and our ability in the future to not get sued and to submit this and cause extra time burden on the staff, I'm hesitant to do that. Councilmember Ball, were you saying you're going to be gone coming up too for one of the meetings?
Yeah.
So, I'm just wondering if we're going to be in the same boat if we move things forward.
And life happens,
So,
somebody else may have a medical or family issue. So, all right, if there's no other comments. So those in favor, so the motion was to move 11A to the next meeting. So those in favor of moving 11A to a future meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you got 3, and then opposed? All right, so motion passes 3-2, so we will be moving that. So when we get farther in the agenda, let's look at the calendars and see what we don't have to do that now. Okay, all right, any other proposed changes for the agenda tonight? Okay, not hearing any?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Van Orman. Those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Still struggling. We rarely just have 5. Motion passes 5-0. Okay. Oh, you did. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. That's why. So motion still passes 4-1. Okay, citizen comments. So for those in chambers, we have our handy dandy yellow sheets over by the wall over here. If you'd like to make a comment on any of the agenda items, please fill one of these out, get it to Rochelle on the end. It'll get passed over to me. Anybody online, if you can send a note to our meeting host in the chat feature, we'll do in-person comments first. We don't have any written, so then we'll go to online. We ask that you make sure you check whether you live in the city limits or not. Time limit's 3 minutes. We just ask that the comments remain respectful, and it is true comment period. There is no back and forth with the council. If we need to get back with you on something, make sure we have your phone number. So first up, we had Mary Helgeson first. Welcome.
I'm Mary Helgeson. My husband and I moved to Liberty Lake 3 years ago. One of the very first things I did when we arrived was look for a fabulous library, take my granddaughters too. That's the reason, our granddaughters are the reason we're here. And we found this wonderful little library. The staff is amazing and very knowledgeable, very kind, very helpful. But what I did notice is the lack of space for all the kinds of things they would like to do. In particular, my granddaughters, I love taking them. They have special crafts and activities for kids. And if you don't call or register right away, you just can't attend. And there's been disappointment in my granddaughters that we couldn't attend something. So I really hope that at some point in time when the timing is right, we can really get a great, vibrant library here. It'll just make such a great impact to the community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. Next up, we have Mark Saba.
I'm Mark Saba, and yes, I am a resident of Liberty Lake. I'm here to talk about Barefoot in the Park. It's coming up quick, as everyone probably knows. It's August 2nd, Saturday. And the reason why I'm up here is because I'm in charge of the dunk. What we've had in the past was a dunk bucket. This year we have got a dunk tank. A real one, one that, hey, they have to sit on a platform, you hit a target and they fall on down into the water. So it's going to be a fun event. The proceeds of this year's event will go to the Girl Scout Troop 2360. And I just want to let you know what celebrities we have lucky enough to be sitting in the dunk tank for about a half an hour, hoping to get really soaked. We got Chris Kaminskis, Chris Cargill, Jed Spencer, Dan Dunn, Chief Simmons, Deputy Chief Morgan, and a couple other people that
Soto.
no, I let Chief. I tried to get Chief Soto a couple years ago, and he graciously asked not to. So I wasn't going to bother him.
Spend your money.
So again, it's going to run from 11 to 4 o'clock. This year's event is going to be awesome. I mean, there's so much entertainment, so much things for the kids, for the adults. We got music, we have the beer garden, everything. Please circle the 2nd of August and let's all come down and celebrate Liberty Lake. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right. Do we have anybody else in chambers with any comments? Not seeing any. There will be another option, another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Do we have anybody online? Nope. Okay, we will move on. We're up to announcements, proclamations, and special presentations. We have an update on Building Ohana. There you are.
It's nice to see you all.
Can you
Thank
raise the mic
for
up a
allowing
little
me to
bit?
speak. Yeah. that's
Thank
always a
you.
Problem. I really appreciate having 10 minutes of your time. I know that you have many, many things to address, so I will do my best to not talk too long. It's a problem that you all know I have. I do want to share with you a few updates. I want to share with you some inspiration. And I want to share with you that I have not been attacked in a back alley. You don't have to worry about me. I don't feel any pain. It's just the result of a kind of a extensive facial surgery, easy enough. But I know you can stop worrying about it now and just
I
listen.
thought maybe you killed a bear in the process.
Exactly. My husband told me I ought to tell you that I was stabbed in a back alley, but I think that was a good idea. I'm Deb Fink. I'm the Executive Director of Building Ohana, and I am here, like I said, to inspire and also inform you of a few things that we're considering and that are very important to us as we move forward with building Ohana Village in Liberty Lake. I want to tell you just a little story first. And that is a story, we've done community Envision Ohana meetings, community conversations, community engaged planning for a very long time, since the beginning of Ohana. And I've met an awful lot of family members who often say the same things that roll around in my head all the time before Ohana and our founders' heads. But this woman was particularly impactful to me. She said, I've spent my whole life advocating for my daughter with Down syndrome. She's beautiful, she's smart, she's joyous, but I worry that I can't see her future. I don't understand how she will be supported in the community. I don't have a picture of where she might live or who will love her when I'm gone. I know this is a familiar experience for families of loved ones who may or may not, because of their disabilities, be isolated in their communities. But her questions were like ours. Where is there a place in our community that we can call home? Where we're not an exception, but part of the real design of things. Where we can grow, contribute, and belong. And I just thought those words were so timely. Well, 13 years ago, no, 10 years ago, I heard them, and we're still saying those words today. So with that in mind, I want to tell you also that Charlie and I used to just call it "we can't die" conversation, because that's a blunt way of saying that, addressing the same concern. I want to tell you, for those of you who don't know very much about Ohana, I'm going to quickly remind you that our organization, non-501c3 nonprofit, was formed to research, design, and develop Ohana Village. That's been our sole aim since the beginning. It was founded by parents and professionals intimately familiar with the barriers that face people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We wanted to identify those barriers and remove them in the context of home and neighborhood, not just for ourselves or for our loved ones, but for all of us. Ours is an old-fashioned idea, really, when you think about it. It's a community-based solution. It's a neighborhood where love lives. Ohana Village will be a mixed-income, multi-generational, and fully accessible neighborhood of homes for a diverse population of around 150 to 170 residents. Built on a foundation of intentional neighboring, it will have a focus of support and inclusion for a percentage of our residents who live with intellectual and developmental disabilities and neurodiversities that include autism and other, oops, there was my pen. The lifestyle of an intentional neighboring community is built on the power of daily caring relationships and created not apart from, but within a vibrant, interdependent community of people that are of all ages, incomes, and abilities. So that's a really short version of what we're doing here in Liberty Lake. And finally, I want to say that this will be a community, a neighborhood harnessing what Brenda E. Hart, the author of Neighbors and one of our board members, calls the power of the people next door. Ohana will be an affordable housing solution, a carer solution, a barrier solution, a social isolation solution, and a community division solution. Not a panacea. It's a neighborhood, but not an agency, by the way, I should say, and not a social service, but a planned neighborhood, intentional neighborhood of support, relationship, and belonging. We're working on land acquisition in Liberty Lake. I know that many of you know that. I feel like I'm holding my breath all the time, every day, all day long sometimes, waiting for that to happen, but we believe it will, that we'll have our property in Liberty Lake and that we'll move forward from land acquisition to build 40 to 44 single-family cottage-style homes, thanks to your, by the way, visionary zoning codes and directions. We know that we can build this community here. That's a miracle in itself. We'll include 40 to 44 single-family cottage-style homes, a mix of rental and home ownership, 4 supporting living homes for 12 to 14 adults who need full-time care, 24/7 care, 2 co-living buildings, that include suites and shared community space, in a model that's uniquely designed for single renters of all abilities and all ages, with space for providers when needed. A common house, which we call everybody's second home, because our homes are smaller. Our cottage homes are smaller, and sometimes we need room. And the common house provides a lot of the features of a large home that all residents can use. It also includes shared green space. We'll be building and designing gardens and walkable connections, great places to be with our neighbors. We've met hundreds of people who want to live in Ohana. Our resident list is huge, and here are a few examples. One is Spencer, who's an amazing young man with autism. He's 30, incredibly affectionate, capable. He loves video games and is very, very funny. A good joke teller. He lives with his mom almost for his entire life and depends on her for his structure and care. Ohana's our co-living homes will offer Spencer the necessary support and community he needs to take a step forward toward independent living. With neighbors nearby, it will be a life that feels truly his own. Another example are Jess and Marcus, 2 local people, by the way, that I only met in the last year. These are not their real names, by the way. Jess teaches preschool and Marcus is a junior mechanic in one of our local auto shops. They both love the idea of raising a family in a place where people know and support each other. But with rising costs, they haven't been able to find housing they can afford where they work in Liberty Lake. Ohana Village might offer them that entry point and a real community to grow into. The last example I'll give you is Linda and Ray, who are retired and ready for intentional neighboring. Linda and Ray recently retired to downsize, but not to disconnect. In fact, they're looking for a neighborhood where their skills, stories, and presence really make a difference in people's lives. In their new 2-bedroom Ohana cottage, they'll imagine teaching art to residents in the common house, helping with a community garden, living in a place where neighbors of all ages truly know each other. They have a nephew with Down syndrome who will be invited to join us at every activity when he visits. Our progress to date, well, I better keep that page in front of me. Hold on. Our progress to date, starting out, as I told you, with over a decade, meeting with hundreds of families, doing envision and planning. What will this community look like? What will the features of this community be? What kinds of things on the ground are you and your family looking for the kind of neighborhood you envision? And a lot of future residents, care providers, and professionals. So we've also designed a charrette with national participants, patterns to live by most recently in Liberty Lake that involve a community engaged process that some of you attended and contributed greatly to. We're very grateful for that. That was last October. Right before that meeting, we had picked up and moved from Spokane to Liberty Lake, fully anticipating that we will be here and make a real contribution to the Liberty Lake community. Since moving to Liberty Lake, we have established incredible, viable partnerships with both developers and builders, people that are key to our success in the Liberty Lake area, and people who are anxious to help us, to come alongside us with real development plans. For that, I am so immensely grateful. Most recently, you know about our partnerships with the disabilities community, with the ARC, with Northwest Autism Center, with a number of organizations that will help us to make sure that we're doing the right thing on the ground to support people with disabilities. But this is a community for all residents. And as such, we are really grateful that we will have the chance to do some things that most nonprofits that are that serve vulnerable people, groups of people, we have an opportunity to do what many of those organizations struggle to do, and what we were struggling to do until just a few minutes ago, it feels like. And that is, we have now the funding to move through acquisition, pre-development, up to the point of construction of our homes without having another dime in the bank. Now, that doesn't mean we won't be raising money, so the whole world needs to hear that. But the fact is that we have been given a miraculous gift to do something in an environment where nobody's really very certain about how federal funding will look for projects like this, and nonprofits are struggling to figure out how they're going to achieve their goals. We know what we want to do, and we know we have the resources to do it, and now getting the partners to do it. And I just want you all to be aware of how grateful we are to both you and the people that work and live and have built Liberty Lake for all of your help. Just can't say that enough. The last thing is I want to tell you about a contract that we just approved this morning at a 7 o'clock in the morning, horrible early board meeting. And that was a contract to begin on-site, site-specific site planning and housing assessments for creating real footprints and real models on the ground for what this might be laid out to look like, so that we can share that with landowners and with our development partners, and they can see what it is that really this community is going to be, no longer just a square on our website with components, but a real layout for living on the ground. And those are our big accomplishments. When you think about where we were last October, those are huge. And I just wanted to make sure that you all knew that this project that started so long ago and was so little and inconsequential is not anymore. So thank you all for your help. I am here, as I told you, to talk about one other little tiny thing. How am I doing on time?
I have no idea.
Yeah, good. Me either. So this will be short because I'm not, this is a topic on which I am not an expert. And I just want to share with you that one of the pieces of how it is that we move forward is figuring out how we do partnerships, both with private and public entities. We have, since the beginning, not wanted to be just your average private market development, a co-housing community as many of you might know it, but something that really brought public and private resources and expertise together. And we have the chance to do that. Our funders are telling us that. And that seems to be a way forward for most everybody now, and I am so grateful. But this piece that I want to talk to you about is something that you may have already heard of, and that's the multifamily tax exemption that I'm going to speak haltingly about this because it's all pretty new to me too. It is a state-enabled tool that allows cities to grant temporary property tax exemptions, usually for 12 or 20 years. I know that seems like a long time, but nonetheless, they are temporary. In exchange for somebody building multifamily housing, for setting aside portions of that project for low and moderate income level acquisition. And that does include affordable home ownership, as long as it's supported by city policy, because this is an agreement that's made between cities and the state governed by this regulation, and as we've been looking at it, as our real estate development expert, our financial architect, Maria Williams, has researched, could be of real benefit, not to us as developers, that's not the goal here, but to residents who not only would have acquisition costs moving into homes in Ohana, either rental costs or homeownership costs, but they would also have those sustained cost of living and management and maintenance costs that frequently are the doom of people who work really hard to get into a home and realize they have to spend an awful lot of money to be there. So our goal is always going to be to put our residents first, from people buying homes that might be families of our target population, or a senior citizen family, a low income couple like Marcus and Jess, seniors, citizens who really want that extended life of purpose and contribution inside of a neighborhood. All of those people who might be able to qualify for a low income housing of varying levels could be benefited by such a partnership with the city. And that would require, of course, that the city get involved in that program with the state, and be willing to look at the way in which tax exemption for property could be deferred over a period of time, during which projects like ours could become very stable, permanent, and well-sustained portions of our Liberty Lake neighborhood. I think that is something I really want to reinforce here. We are looking, every time we look at what things are going to cost, we're always thinking of our residents. This is our main goal, to make a really quality neighborhood life affordable for many people who can't afford it right now. I want to tell you again, just to go over some of this, I'm going to read, hope that's okay. In multifamily tax exemption, it's determined that there is a real no-cost incentive for the city. In other words, cities do not pay developers out of pocket. The exemption applies simply to residential improvements for a limited term of years. So very beneficial to the recipient. Maria estimates anywhere between $1,500 and $3,000 a year, depending on housing costs, for some of the families that might be living in Ohana. The other things, the land and commercial components remain taxable. So it's only the new construction that goes on top that is exempt from taxes temporarily. The MFTE attracts private capital to deliver public goods. That's kind of a spiel, I think, but you know what I'm saying. This is a way in which developers like moving forward with such an option that could benefit their development. Examples, by the way, I want to say first of all that Wendy has been kind enough to hold in reserve a well-researched one-pager that will give you tons of information on this multifamily. Yeah, you aren't supposed to give them to it yet. Don't look at it. This is a secret until I'm finished. I want to tell you just two more little things. And one is that there are over 200 MFTE units created in Spokane since it was adopted. In Bellingham, it enabled affordable housing downtown. In Tacoma, it supported revitalization with mixed income units. And in Issaquah, it attracted nonprofit and sustainable developers. On the sheet that you don't have yet, Maria has included an example of how Bainbridge Island has incorporated this agreement with the state into its city council has adopted this approach. So Liberty Lake could move forward in these ways. One, by adopting this enabling ordinance under RCW 84.14, designate MFTE eligible areas, and we're hoping that you realize that this would be of great benefit to our project, and that we could even be a flagship if you decided to become interested and involved in this idea. Define affordability targets. You would need to do that yourselves. That is a city job. Example, 20% of units less than 80% AMI, or 115% AMI, whatever you determine those realms to be, and collaborate with projects like ours to pilot and refine this agreement as it looks in the city over the years. I want to say that we'd also love it if we were invited, Building Ohana was invited to be part of any kind of policy conversation in the future. And we would also love to remind you that you can really help us, and you are helping us already, to make Ohana Village not just built, but a place where people will thrive. And thank you very much for your time. I want to give a shout out real quickly to this research one-pager and let you know that all the information there and links are there in the document, but I have an electronic copy that you're welcome to have. I can send it to Lisa.
That'd be great.
Whatever you want to do with it. But you should know also that on this one-pager is Maria's email address. And if you want someone who will really dig in and get you all the information you need, because that's what she does for us, you can, she's given me permission to give you her emails, and you can use it freely. Thank you for giving me this time.
One quick question
Yes.
before you go though, Deb.
Yes.
Remind me how many acres you guys are looking at.
Well, our offer, thank you for asking. Our offer was made for 8 acres. And I think one of the things that the site planning will do is help us to understand what little tweaks in our final, negotiations with the seller might make that look like. We need our footprints right now
Right.
for our housing and things like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a couple of quick questions for you.
Yes.
Can you walk us through the I guess it would be the timeline, or the kind of the what comes first, the chicken or the egg thing here with the MFTE, and then you're acquiring property, or is it the exact opposite? Do you acquire the property first and then come to us and ask us to designate that area as part of a MFTE?
I don't know.
Okay.
Maria would, or if she doesn't, I'm not sure. Are you sure? You're looking at me like you know what I'm talking about.
So actually, it could happen either way. Obviously, you wouldn't want to just designate the property associated with Ohana. You'd want to consider what benefit it could be
Yeah.
citywide and determine an area. There's a process associated with it. There's an ordinance. I actually was involved in City of Spokane's latest update to the MFTE before I left the city. So I have a little bit of knowledge on it.
And we don't have that right now, though.
We do not have it at all.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess my second question for you is, Building Ohana a C3?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is a question for Mark. Can the city donate, if we get to the end of the year and we have excess revenue, can the city donate to a C3, similar to what we did when we had the ARPA dollars and we donated to the Ridgeline Band? And
with general government revenues, the city has pretty wide flexibility of how to appropriate and allocate those dollars. The real question is, what mechanism would you be setting up to accomplish that? Generally speaking, the answer is yes. There would have to be some discussion among the council of what the mechanics of that look like.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, go ahead, Linda.
You sound like you've identified property. Whereabouts is it?
Based on our ability to actually pay for it.
But are you at liberty to tell us whereabout? That's all?
Yeah.
Okay, 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 thank you. And I'm really glad you're moving forward with this. I remember you speaking before I was even on council, and I thought, that's a good idea. So, thank you.
Great. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Okay, we are up to reports and inquiries. First up, city council. Are there any city council reports? Okay, not seeing any. Mayor's report, mine will be very short. First, I would like to start off with a congratulations to Councilmember Ball. She has earned her Association of Washington Cities Certificate of Municipal Leadership. And I don't. Had I realized that before today, I would have had your thing printed out for you, but I did want to acknowledge your accomplishment so soon in your tenure. Great work.
Thank you. I
Keep
was
it up.
excited.
Yes. So upcoming meetings, Greater Spokane Inc., the Regional Advocacy Committee is meeting here in the next week or so. Spokane County elected officials is tomorrow. I am not going to be able to attend that. I will be excused, but Lisa will be there to represent her piece of it. I have a doctor's appointment I couldn't get out of. Looking backwards, we've got the 4th of July celebration was amazing. I helped kick off the boat parade on the 3rd, which was amazing as always. And I don't know who the family is, but they always come up with the most creative boat float, whatever they are. And of course, this year they didn't get to the dock in time for us to vote on them, but this year they did a slinky, the dog slinky from Toy Story. And everybody on the boat was dressed up like Toy Story characters, and the dinghy was on what looked like a spring going back and forth. It was quite entertaining. And Brett's RV and Marine, one of our local businesses, was the main sponsor and led the parade around the lake. So it was great. The golf cart parade the next morning. I didn't get a count on how many did we have? Do you know how many golf carts we had, Mark?
I would say.
Yeah, but once again, second year in a row, the first ones got back to the start before the last ones got off the ground. So, and I always ride the last one on the back, helping Ann Tishy, with the megaphone saying the parade is over. Remember to come to see New Jack City. And there are people still coming behind us. And she got out of the cart and walked behind like, you got to stop following. But they were trying to get the roads back open. But again, very well attended. It was nice that it wasn't roasting like it has been in the past, and the meltable candy wasn't melting on the street. I was not unfortunately present for the concert and the fireworks, but I heard it was amazing. Great participation. I heard the fireworks were great. I stopped by earlier in the day to talk to the pyrotechnics team, and they were all excited about being able to do a great longer show this year. So as we're putting the budget together for next year, we will need to make sure that we have, with inflation, cost of goods, we want to make sure that we have enough in the budget for next year to do that. And just a preview, I'd like you guys to get in your head, next year's our 25th anniversary, and it's also the 250th anniversary, right? Or birthday for the US. So we've got a couple big celebrations next year. So we might want to tinker with the idea of maybe doing some additional fireworks on the city's 25th birthday. And maybe a little bit bigger show on the 4th. So, but more to come. And last on my list is the Spokane Valley State of the City address is next week on the 23rd. I wasn't planning on going, but I got a call from the chamber today saying we have one more seat. So I will be there. I'm not sure who's presenting. With Mayor Haley is having some of her own medical challenges. So I can't remember who they settled on who will be making that presentation. But it's always good to hear our neighboring city and what's going on with them and how their year's been. So I think that's all for me. So we can move on to the city administrator report, Mark.
Thank you, Mayor. Quick report tonight, just a couple of events to remind everyone about upcoming. We have Touch a Truck on Friday, July 18th. That's this Friday at Orchard Park. And my understanding is that this is panning out to be the biggest and best year yet Jandy's shaking her head yes and giving a big thumbs up. So if you have little ones, or even if you don't, come out and check that out from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Following that, just a reminder that the Parks and Recreation Master Plan Survey, this has been out since mid-May. This is one piece of an overall engagement strategy on the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. But the survey itself is closing on Monday, July 21st. So you have just under a week left to participate in that survey if you haven't done so yet. Remember that this master plan is going to help make decisions about park development and evolution over the next 20 years. And so it's important for us to get your feedback. This won't be the only opportunity to provide feedback on the plan, but it's one of the important ways in which we gather that input for future decision-making. And then finally, as Mark mentioned a little bit earlier, Barefoot in the Park is coming up in a couple of weeks, Saturday, August the 2nd. That's one of our largest events. And so we look forward to seeing everyone out there for a fun-filled Saturday at Pavilion Park. Before we move on to some of the other items, any questions about those three? Okay, moving on to department reports. This is the second meeting of the month, and so we've distributed the reports to the council members, and now is your opportunity to ask any of our department heads questions about the information that you see in the monthly reports.
Go ahead, Councilmember Ball. Councilmember
I have a
Ball.
couple questions for Lisa and then one for, I don't know who. So Lisa, on these, 2 condo buildings of 15 units, where
It's-
is this at?
So it's a total of 15 units. One building is 9 units and one building is 6 units. They're located on Indiana Avenue, just east of where Kramer Parkway is going to connect to Indiana. Excuse me, west. West,
West of,
where Kramer Parkway extension is going to intersect with Indiana.
okay, and then 2 mixed use of 23 units? 2 mixed use,
Yeah, so those are both in the River District. One is located on the southwest corner of Indiana and Harvard, next to the dentist office and the
the other one's.
Welcome Center. And one is across the street on Indiana,
Okay,
the one
that-
that's under construction.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Do you know if those are going to be condominiums or apartments?
I do not.
Okay, because I actually know the mother of one of the owner, and she didn't know either if they're gonna be condos or apartments. so-
Again, the project on Indiana was explicitly going to be condos. I think it remains to be seen. One of the things I will say is that one of the changes to the code that we have to do is as part of the comp plan is unit lot subdivision. Pretty much any apartment could actually be turned into condos with those regulations in place.
Okay. And then, what are the details on the Firewise Town Hall? What's that about?
So again, the intent of that is to create some engagement that are specific to some of the things that resonate with our residents related to climate planning. Firewise is really intended to be a town hall that's focusing on the climate resiliency effort, things that people can do to make their home safer from wildfire, discussions about some of the resiliency planning that we're working on right now,
Okay.
and potential plans for future hazard mitigation planning, et cetera. One of the things we're doing, as part of the climate piece, is doing a transportation resiliency undertaking. And so we're hoping to have information like that. In conversations with staff and the consultants and our schedule right now, we're thinking that those are going to get pushed out a little bit because we're kind of up to our gills in
Right. But it's
What's-
good, great idea.
what's going on right now.
Yeah,
but yeah.
great idea. Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions on department reports?
I have one for Ben.
Sure.
Ben.
He's coming.
Oh. Um, you mentioned turf dye to, on for irrigation hotspots.
Yes, ma'am.
What is turf dye?
So turf dye probably gets used a little bit more in the state of California where you don't get as much rain here. So we've got a couple of spots in our city that the sprinklers just aren't doing a very good job of. And we need to replace in the meantime. So this is basically a food safe dye. We're dyeing the dead grass. So if you go by the, we've tested it out over by the wastewater or the water treatment plants, right in front of Bill's spot. And so you can kind of see a couple of colors. So we're trying to get the right blend so it matches the existing color of our grass. But yeah, it's just a way to dye your grass in a couple of spots that we just can't get up and running.
But it doesn't hurt the
No,
grass
no, it's
or-
completely pet safe, all those things. We bought it on Amazon.
Can you send me, can you send me a link to that?
Me too. I want. I was wondering if anybody would catch that. I specifically put that in when Chris left it out.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
So we don't plan to use it a lot, but just in a couple of areas that we just can't. But we have a lot of sprinkler issues over the years. Our sprinkler systems have kind of degraded and they need to be replaced, but until we can do that, this kind of makes it a little nicer.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, just
Right.
novel idea. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I'm serious. I want that. Okay.
And then the final item on my report, Mayor, is just another reminder about the 2026 budget. As hard as it is to believe, we are in the throes of budget development. And so we're in throughout the month of July and most of the month of August, we are going to be asking for input from residents and businesses and visitors to a certain degree of things that were specifically addressed on the community satisfaction survey. And so these engagements throughout the budget process give folks the opportunity to provide additional context so that we understand clearly what are some things that we need to pay some attention to when it comes to budgeting, both operationally and on the capital side. And so look for those things to be released. We have a Talk Back Tuesday feature that is usually a question which is context specific. We'll have some other things out there that allow for different kinds of engagement. But between now and say the third week in August, these things will continue to hit our social media sites and our website on a weekly basis. And if there are questions about that, I'd be happy to answer. If not, that concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions for Mark? All right, not seeing any. Thanks, Mark. Next up, Liberty Lake Sewer and Water District. We see Bill in the audience. Welcome.
Bill Genoway, Sewer and Water Commissioner at Liberty Lake. So Ben, we sell water, just so you know. So we're not paying for grass dye. Thought about your touch a truck thing. If you're interested in how we get the water, we're drilling a well over at Kenny Well right next to the east. So it's pretty interesting stuff. 24-inch casings that are going down 210 feet. So if you've never seen a well drill operation. So I thought maybe we could bring the well drillers over for the touch a truck. What do you think?
CG Andy.
That's not gonna happen.
Oh, come on.
Okay. So we're coming up with aquifer protection vote. It's called the APA. It's every 20 years we vote on this. So it's important that we do it because to protect our aquifer is the main thing we use around here for drinking water. So that vote will be on August 5th. It costs $15 a year. So it's a very important segment of the county's aquifer protection program. They collect the money and but they need the entire, and the city of Spokane this year is opting back into the program, which a big boom for that whole program. So make sure you vote. It's important, August 5th. The Kenny Well thing is kind of cool. You need to go over there and check that out. I think that's, well, our program for what we call the CC&C. It's it's a controlled program to make sure we don't get contaminants into our water system. Is going along at a pretty good rate. We're at 93% right now, and about 78 on the commercial. So so we're going to start sending out letters to have people that haven't had their systems checked by a professional. So the penalty is we can shut your water off if you don't do the backflow protection. It's very important for this system. I know a lot of people don't understand why we do it and why we do it every year. But you realize we live in a frost freeze environment and things break. It's a mechanical device. So it's important that we check the backflow every year. So that's moving along at a pretty good pace. Metro Car Wash is in the process of getting a discharge permit, and then we will review that. Car washes are hard on sewage systems, so it's something that we will evaluate, and if their engineering reports turn out to be okay, then we'll probably allow that. But it's a very complicated system. A lot of people, you see car washes and you don't think much about it, but we're a biosystem. So we can't take everything into our system because it kills the bugs. So they're not really bugs, but they kind of look like bugs. So I guess that's in my report. If you have any questions, let me know. We're only going to do this once a month from now, and it was Ben's suggestion. I like it being on the agenda once a month, and I think all three of us kind of like that because we don't usually have a lot to report. But so anyway, appreciate your time.
Bill, before you go, I do want to give a shout out to ByJ. I get phone calls now and then from projects that are going on, one that you mentioned. And of course, I always remind everybody that we are two separate entities. We don't have any influence over each other, but I do like to educate myself when those questions come up. And he's always available, always very informative, and I always leave those conversations learning something new so that I'm maybe armed better for the next phone call I get. So just want to pass on my thanks.
I'll do that. And we will have a few trucks over there for the Touch a Truck, some of our equipment. It's kind of interesting to see.
I think Councilmember Ball has a question.
Well, it's kind of a comment, but I did see in the paper the other day that the city of Spokane is going to hold and, go back to considering the APA. And I was very excited to read that. And as I understand it, all three of us or everybody in the county has to be on board, right?
Well, we've had this for 20 years. The
Right.
city opted out the last time.
Right.
But we still ran the program with limited funds, basically. The city is a big hitter, so
Sorry?
they're a big contributor to the program.
Right.
So
right.
we're glad to get them back in.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for being here.
Okay.
Okay, next up, we have the Spokane Valley Fire Department, and some of us have the 2024 annual report.
Good evening, council members, city officials, Madam Mayor, and our citizens. I would like to provide this evening's second quarter report. And then when we're done with that, if you all have any questions regarding the annual report, I'll be happy to answer those. If I can't, I will get you the answers and get back with you. So we will start on yes, ma'am. Thank you. So this past quarter, second quarter, we had a total of 6,223 calls for 911 throughout our entire response area, which equated to 82% of those EMS. When you throw in motor vehicle accidents and pedestrian versus
vehicles, then that number actually jumps to closer to about 88%, which is generally where we're at. Bulk of the calls are for EMS. Next slide, please. This is the heat map of those 6,000 plus calls and their locations. Obviously, they're not specific locations, but gives you an idea. The larger the circle and darker orange are where the most calls occur, and the green ones are the lowest amount of calls. Next slide. For those 6,200 calls, they required 7,648 responses. So again, not all calls require just one unit. Most of the calls we go on require more than one, and that's just the way that the effective response force works requirements with the state and nationally. For the last quarter, we have three engine companies over 800 calls and 7 over 500 calls. So at some point, I'm going to have a report to you where we're going to have less calls, but that hasn't happened yet in 4.5 years. So I don't know when to turn the call spigot off, but it's still flowing. So keep that in mind as we move forward in this. Next slide. So this is where the calls originate, quarterly and monthly. Monthly, you can see that 47% of our calls were in the Opportunity neighborhood in City of Spokane Valley, and 46% of those responses were handled by those units that were there. Next slide. This is our auto aid, mutual aid. So again, to help people understand why this happens, why we go into other areas to respond to calls and why they come here, even though our unit may be there in-house, is the closest appropriate unit goes. And so we have auto aid with the City of Spokane, D8, D9, and we have some mutual aid with D13. So again, how that works is, doesn't matter if it's in my response area, it's the closest appropriate unit. So if I'm right next to the call and I'm basic life support and you are advanced life support and it's an advanced life support call, we're still going to go on the call, but we're also going to call for that auto aid or that advanced life support to come with us. So that's why your numbers here show a large amount of calls going both ways. Next slide, please. So this is the second quarter to second quarter for the last 5 years, just to give you an idea of where we're at as a department. So obviously this is the busiest second quarter that we've had, and we are currently ahead of those last year's second quarter numbers by 6.2%. So again, quite busy. Next slide, please. And then next slide. And so this is year to date. So year to date, we've had 12,341 calls for 911, 83% were for specific EMS calls. However, if you added all the call codes, it's closer to 89%. Next slide. Of those 12,341 calls, they required 15,185 responses. The biggest numbers there are on the bottom row, where we have 8 units with 1,000 calls or more year to date. That includes our own Station 3 here in Liberty Lake. And we have technically 3 over 1,700 calls. Next slide. So this past June is the busiest June we've had on record. And if I'm correct, I believe this is the 8th busiest month we've ever had in history. Again, I couldn't tell you one way or the other as to why things have gotten more busy, but you can see, generally speaking, June is a busy month for us. As we've been tracking over the last 5 years, we've had over 1,900 calls each one of those months. And again, we're 4.3% over last year's total call volume as of today. Next slide is the heat map of those calls, again, just to give you an idea of where the bulk of the calls are. Next slide. Next slide. So this is prevention. in respect to Liberty Lake, Liberty Lake has 471 businesses, and to date, we have inspected 404 of those, or 86% of them. So we're way ahead of schedule, which is great because I want to make sure that we get every single one of them. Next slide. And this is next slide, and this is just Liberty Lake for the past quarter. So again, second quarter, 338 calls, of which 79% were for EMS. If you add in the motor vehicle accidents, then that number jumps to 87%. Next slide. So this is a heat map of those 338 calls. And again, we can't show exactly where they occurred, but it gives you a general idea of where the bulk of the calls are coming from. And you can see it's pretty much spread out evenly, except for the big orange dot. Everybody knows where that is, so I'm not going to say it. Next slide, please. So those responses, I'm sorry, those calls generate 395 responses. The bulk of those obviously handled by Station 3, which was 266 of them. Next slide. And again, this is the quarter by quarter for the second quarter over the last 5 years. Second busiest second quarter on record, but we are 4.8% less than last year's second quarter, so that's good. Anytime there's a reduction, I guess that's our one reduction there. I said it, but that's pretty much it. Next slide. This is our last slide. We're even Steven with last year's call volume right now, so which is weird, but I'm happy with that because we're not plus. But I would like to see us minus, so we're not quite there yet. So that is your report. Any questions on the second quarter report?
Not hearing any.
Okay. Any questions on the annual report?
Just got it.
Oh, we got the electronic copy.
Oh, I guess I didn't.
Oh, well, and again, I can answer any questions if you have. And you want to reach out to me.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
a
Richard's
quick
going.
comment. I think the reason you're not participating in the dunk tank is because you don't want to mess up your hair. So, maybe next year.
That is true. Well, I'm very fragile, sir. I'm a delicate flower that could melt.
Just come with a bunch of 20s and try to dunk us.
Well, you may see me there. Send me the information, and I'll see if I'm there. I'm one of these days.
Thanks for all your work. Oh, Linda, go ahead.
Well, I do have a question. So with this hot weather and today that wind was just a nightmare. Are you guys, prepared for whatever could happen? Wildfire?
Are we prepared for a wildland fire?
Well, yeah, with this wind blowing like it
So,
did.
so just, there's currently one going on right now. That's not good. That's why I've been back there typing and looking and typing
Right.
and looking. So, on 32nd and State Road 27, we're as
Ooh.
prepared as we can be. The problem is nobody can prepare for the weather. If the wind blows and you have a red flag date like today, it's one of those things where if you live upwind, uphill, you got to go. You're going to probably have to go. Somebody had mentioned Firewise. So again, Firewise, it's great for communities. I've been in communities that have implemented Firewise, and what Firewise is essentially is you have to have at least eight residents to, I think it's 2,500. Don't quote me on that. And you, from 0 to 5 feet around your house, you have to remove all flammable items, which is kind of funny since everything is flammable. But from 5 feet to 30 feet, then you have to really reduce your fire footprint to have defensible space. And your whole community has to adopt that. And sometimes the insurance companies will reward you for that as well. We will certainly put our lives at a higher risk for those communities. So how we operate, how all fire departments operate is if you don't put a defensible space around your home and there's a wildland fire, then we are going to write your home off. We are not going to, my guys are not expendable, so I'm not going to send them there to die because you didn't, reduce your fire footprint. But if you do put it in a defensible space, then my guys will go the extra mile to try and save your home. So just some key, but we're as prepared. Yes, ma'am. We've done all our training for the year. We're as prepared as we can be, but there's always the what if, and we can't control everything. And so it's just one of those things. We're people. If you notice right now, all these fires, have you seen any lightning? No. So it's people starting these fires, whether on purpose or because they're stupid. I do. So it is what it is. And so you can't fix stupid, but you can put people start fires in jail. So we're doing our best.
Well, for those of you who don't have the Watch Duty app, this is really good to have. I just looked up the one that you just mentioned. I use the free version, but a friend of mine pays the $25 a year, I think is all it is. And she can put her loved ones and friends' addresses in there, so she can get an alert if something's close to them and go help. In fact, I almost headed up to Deer Park with her over the weekend because it was her friend who called the one up there in from the lake. They spotted it. But it's really good to have.
But we already have, we've been deployed to 3 fires already with our people. We're currently just left the Hope Fire. We're going down south to the fire, or not down south, west to the Davenport where the West Fire is. So it's going to be a busy season.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, stay safe. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Parks and Arts Commission. Hello.
I'm Katie Ferris with the Parks and Arts Commission. Nancy Hill's out of town, so I'm filling in for her. And I believe we have a PowerPoint to pull up here. Okay, so these are just our project updates. And we've talked about a lot of these things already. But we are going to get input on our parks plan at these events. Next slide. And this is the art wraps that we put around in the community. The story walk is up along the road going up to Pavilion Park. That's going to be in 2026. Then there's the Kramer Roundabout art that we're going to put in 2026. And in Orchard Park, that's Daughters of the Revolution box wrap. And there's some boulders that we also might paint, like animals or something, so people don't trip on them. But be kind of a creative painting situation. Next slide. And then just like all of you, we're kind of going through our budget review. And then I've been very involved in the Bike Safety Advisory Committee, and we're working with Ben Turner as the street development plan is evolving, that we have a network for bike and pedestrian safety throughout Liberty Lake. And we're hoping to, we are going to go to the Cops and Cruisers event that the Liberty Lake Police Department put on September 13th. And we're hoping to provide some education on bicycle safety, golf cart safety, e-bike safety, and the differences of what e-bikes are, because there seems to be some community confusion on that. So we're going to try to be very creative and fun and have a booth at the Cops and Cruisers event. Give away some bike helmets in coordination with the Liberty Lake SCOPE program. So that should be a positive impact. And then, yeah, so, and then there's some new recreation programs that Mikkel's helping us develop, whitewater rafting, painting on rocks and stuff in the park, that kind of thing. There's a lot of new creative recreational programs. So if you look on the website, you can see that, all of those. So, yeah, one other thing with the Bike Advisory Committee, we're hoping to have a community bike ride where people can go to all 4 different parks in Liberty Lake on the south and north end of Liberty Lake. So we're just kind of developing a safe plan of what that's going to look like. So some of us on our committee will maybe try it out this fall, and then hopefully next spring be able to have it be a city-sponsored event so families can join in and have a fun route. That if you've got friends coming in from out of town, how would you like to go on a bike ride and see all of our fun parks that we have? So that'll be kind of a fun thing to get going. So, any questions?
Sounds great.
All right.
You guys have your hands full.
We'll continue on.
Thank you. All right, that is it for reports and inquiries. Next up, we have workshop discussions, and the first one is on cost recovery options for public records request. And I'm going to turn this one over to Kyle.
Thank you, Mayor. So while Evan pulls that up, we have informally had this discussion over the past several years during budget development of what does it take to deliver this program for our residents, and then anybody, because whether you're a resident of Liberty Lake or you live in Florida, you have access to the records of the city of Liberty Lake through public records requests. And so we have up and down years in terms of the lift that it takes staff to deliver this program year over year. And so we'll go through that a little bit here tonight. This is a very brief and preliminary report that we'll give today for some potential future council action. So next slide, please, Evan. And so you guys have all seen this table, this format before during our program profiles that we brought you during the first half of 2025. And so one of those programs that we have in the development of our priority-based budgeting system is records management, and more specifically through the lens of finance and admin services and public safety. So we do have records management within community development, maintenance and operations, and library. Those are grabbed by different programs within their respective departments. So for the purposes of this slide here, we're focused on finance and admin and public safety. And so the goal of records management, and we identify all of these programs, is retention and dissemination of city records in accordance with city and state policy. And so what are the resources that it takes for us to deliver that service on an annual basis for our residents and for the public? And so as you can see here, that's 1.54 full-time equivalents. That is myself, that's Rochelle, that is our admin part, that's specifically our evidence custodians down at the PD, DC to an extent, chief to an extent. And so that really encapsulates everybody with pretty small slices of that pie to make up that 1.54. And so in personnel, you see the cost there. Non-personnel is going to be things like storage. It's going to be things like public records software. It's going to be things like our third-party IT service if they have to do a deep dive on a request for email records or old records that can't be retrieved through a normal cert process. And so that makes up what our total is for 2025 of just under $200,000 it takes to deliver this program. And so over on the right side there, our basic program attributes. The reason we're bringing this to you tonight is we've seen a very sharp increase in demand for this program. The percentage of the population that's benefiting, everybody has the ability to benefit from this program. the percentage of folks that interact with this program is less than 10%. We are mandated by the state. This isn't any sort of strategic initiative where this is a community development initiative or anything that we choose to implement by way of a strategic plan. We are mandated by the state to provide this service and to preserve records. And so our cost recovery, if you recall, either last month or the month before, we recently changed how we score cost recovery. It was either we recovered a little bit or we recovered everything. And so we've introduced this less than 50% cost recovery. We recover a very nominal amount. On the community development side, apart from this, we have more vehicles to recoup those costs. But really, the way our policy is structured now is essentially our only cost recovery, and I'll get into this on the next slide, is physical records and actual costs incurred from delivery or from acquisition through outside sources. And so the last piece here is the city is the sole provider. We cannot rely on anybody else to provide the service. And so with that, can you advance to the next slide, please? So as I alluded to just prior, so our current policy allows for these things that you see here. And this is charging for public records really in its infancy. And so we adopted this in 2001 and we haven't touched it since because there hasn't really been a need. And so if we're able to legitimately deliver public records, incur some cost without it being overburdensome, there's no reason for us to proactively go out and change our fee structure to recoup if we're generally able to provide this service. And so what we have now is the recovery of actual incurred costs of providing public records. So if we're mailing things out to fulfill our records requests, if we're getting certified copy, if we have plans that we cannot copy here and we have to take it to a specialty copier because it's on a 6x6 printer, we have to seek outside services to deliver those physical copies, and those costs are then passed on to the requester. Additionally, if we have a resident come in and ask for physical copies of any permit at so-and-so address over the last 20 years, and they come in, walk in the door and ask, we can provide those. Here's 10 copies, that's $1. So, and so it's as simple as that. Those requests are exceedingly rare. We do not have any cost recovery mechanism for electronic records. And so we'll get into the next slide, please, Evan. We'll get into that a little bit. So as I'm sure you're not surprised, the overwhelming majority of records requests and deliveries are electronic. And so obviously some of the common ones are permits, plans, correspondence between elected officials, city staff, outside vendors, personal information and purchasing information are two that I do want to spend a little bit of time on. And so we do have, companies that are not based here. They're mostly on the East Coast that seek public information from the city on city staff, elected officials, and purchasing information. So everything that we have bought for the last 5 years and an itemization of that. They don't have any mechanism to make the community a better place through doing that. They are looking for a data dump that they can potentially then sell elsewhere. And so we don't charge for that now. And so I think it's important that, first of all, we all know that, and then council, if we do end up making a determination that, okay, if charging 5 cents for an email eliminates that, that's potentially a net benefit for the city, while also not creating such a barrier for those that seek the records for legitimate purposes to maintain access. And so with those are the two that we get on the admin side that frankly are frustrating because the city or the entities based in Florida and they don't have any business and have never done any business in Liberty Lake. And so now they have all of our information. So, and then leading into one of the main reasons I think that we brought this forward, police reports are relatively easy. Those are simple public records and we get a fair amount of those. Those are routine. Body worn cameras have really, I think I would highlight, underline, and underscore this one as really the reason why I'm bringing this to you tonight. Because we have seen a overwhelming increase in the demand for body worn cameras that we cannot just provide. Those have to be redacted. State law requires that we redact for several different reasons. And the amount of staff time that it takes to deliver those body worn camera records has completely overwhelmed our administration down at police department. And so we have had this conversation for a little over a month now. And so we started investigating potential alternatives of, okay, what can we do? Do we need to bring on additional staff? Is there a reason that we're getting some of these records? And so if DC wants to jump in, I'll hand it off at some point. But anecdotally, what we're seeing is a lot of requests for body worn cameras from individuals that have no involvement in whatever incident that took place. And so we have a lot of concern with if there's no reason for them to not request it, they're not going to stop. And so that is monopolizing our staff time down at the public safety building to taking away from their other duties. So next slide, please, Evan.
Question, Kyle.
Yeah.
Do you happen to know a percentage offhand of requests from just a body cam alone?
I don't. So we started tracking in 2022. I will get you that information if DC does not have it already.
That's a good question. I don't have the actual percentage for the actual body cam footage, but I can tell you from an admin staff point of view, I believe Erin probably puts the most amount of body worn camera footage out there. And I would estimate probably 85 to 95% of her time is put on body camera footage alone. The reason for that is it has to be redacted. Every information, all the information on that body cam footage video has to be redacted in order to put it out there. Sensitive information like driver's license numbers, facial features. If you got a juvenile in there, you got to redact that individual. You can't have it in there. You got to have driver's license that can't be put on there. So every video that the officers take, she averages probably at least a minute for every minute of that video that she has to go through and redact. So minute per minute basically is what it takes in order to redact that video. And this is on every incident that we have that takes place within the city that can be utilized. And so just for an example, if we have 3 officers go to a domestic disturbance, and in that house there is 3 juveniles, a male, a female, and let's just say that somebody was arrested because of that for that reason. So all those juveniles have to be redacted. Any license information has to be redacted. All the information in the house has to be redacted because you can't see into the house because it invades the privacy rules. So if you have 3 officers that responded to that house and they ended up being there for 3 hours, you can start to figure exactly how long each one of those redactions is going to take place. In addition to those redactions that's taken place with the videos, it's also good to note that any of those police reports that we actually put out there also have to be redacted with all that information as well. So that's where the majority of the time is spent with our admin staff, just trying to get these reports out there. And as Kyle was saying, a lot of these people are just requesting this information because of the Freedom of Information Act. They can get the information, go out, put the video out there, do their own little snippets and throw it out there on the internet on however they want to do that. So with this bit of information that we're putting forward here tonight, we're hoping to reduce that amount and help our admin staff actually fulfill some of these requests that are more legitimate than the ones that aren't legitimate, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So if our numbers are correct, and I believe they are, what you heard the DC contribute means that 0.9 of that 1.54 is dedicated exclusively to redacting body cam footage.
Mayor Pro Tem's got a question.
Well, just a real quick, Kyle, you mentioned, you know, on the, one of the, can we go back to the previous slide? On the, some of these personal information and purchasing ones, it's more, you know, East Coast companies. Do we know who is requesting the body worn camera footage? Is the majority coming from legal groups? Is it coming from national organizations? Is it just coming from YouTubers?
A little bit of everything, actually. We get a wide variety from nationwide, different phone numbers, emails, all this other good stuff. So a lot of the people that are requesting the information are just people that are looking to bog down the system, if you will. So they know they can get the information. There's no regulations that stipulate that they can't have the information. So they're just looking to bog down the system. And some of the information that they're requesting, they know they're going to take hours upon hours, if not days, to fulfill the request. So they're just trying to bog down the system, if you will. There are a number of these requests that are coming in that are legitimate based on, you know, the victims or suspects within the case information. The prosecutors, obviously, they get the information. The defense attorney, they'll get the information. All that is all legitimate. But I would say at least 50% or more that are coming in from the PD's perspective anyway, are based on individuals that have no stake in the game, if you will. They don't have any relation to the case. They don't know anybody that's related to the case. They don't know anybody that's, as it relates to the city. They're just asking for the information so they just can have the information in order to do whatever they would like to do with. So that's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, isn't one of the other motivations is that we make a promise to deliver and we miss that deadline and then they can sue?
Correct. That's another piece to it. So there's a certain time frame that you have to get this out there to them. And if you miss that, then they can actually sue the city for monetary value. So that's what we're trying to avoid as well.
Next slide, please, Evan. So with all that, we have plenty of examples to draw from statewide. I would argue that we're behind the eight ball. I would take that as a compliment that we haven't had this discussion yet. We've been able to deliver this service kind of up until now. We're kind of telling you the pain points. But we have very standardized charges that I would consider nominal for electronic records, for which we do not charge for now. And the body-worn camera specifically, there was a cost study done by the city of Spokane that I believe by RCW we are allowed to adopt, that states that it costs them roughly 76 cents per minute of redacted video, which is what is included in their fee structure now. And so that was a local piece that we're able to draw on. This is very preliminary. And so obviously if there is not appetite among the body to proceed with this, that's fine. If there is, there will be a fair amount of additional research that goes into whatever is brought back. That will have to be vetted thoroughly by legal before we bring any of this back on what that looks like as a recommendation for actual charges.
So the goal is several-fold, right? A, to discourage people from doing it because of the cost. But if you look at this, at the 76 cents per minute, that's what, $45 an hour?
Correct.
So that we could recoup the cost of maybe a FTE for some of that and have
Right.
money dedicated to it if the volume remains high.
And I think staff recommendation, this is what the city of Spokane uses. Staff recommendation, I don't think by any means would be 100% cost recovery. That is not the goal. I think it's something to the effect of being able to deliver this service without overburdening staff or the need to hire new staff to deliver this. The hope would be to weed out some of the folks that DC mentioned in terms of the requesters.
Councilmember Kurtz.
Can I ask two questions?
Yeah.
The first one is, do you guys have numbers on, like, you have the FTE for how much it costs, but do you guys have numbers on what you have recouped? Like, what is What is that now?
I would be comfortable saying 0.
Okay. And then I think if I'm interested in moving forward with this and let the rest of the body decide, but I would be curious if other cities do a reduced cost or a different cost for people who are party to a case. So
They
say
do.
you're a
So
victim.
the
Okay.
short answer is yes, but that's, I've read enough to, know that that is over my head in terms of what we can and cannot allow. That'll be a rather in-depth discussion with Sean on the language that we include in any, proposal that we bring back.
Thanks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So a couple of questions. First of all, and this might be a question for Sean, can we differentiate between someone who files a public records request who is a citizen of the city versus outside, if somebody's from Florida, New York? It's
No,
all the same.
You can ask for clarification if you don't know what the request is, or you're not able to do a search for what the record is, but inquiring as to who's doing the search. Now, there's a commercial element to it where you can't gain data or personal information and then try to sell it. So there's that aspect to it. The difficulty is you have a fine line between requesting or getting information on who's making the request and then what they're using it for. So if you have someone in Florida that's making the request, it's probably pretty difficult than if it's someone here in Liberty Lake that's making the request. It's probably easier to figure that out. So it's a difficult process. And just to add on for what Kyle's talking about, much of what the fee structure is limited by statute. Statute provides some wiggle room, if you will, but much of it is regulated statutorily. It's not intended to be a total cost recovery or a dollar for dollar. It's more of a limited cost recovery. Cities are always going to spend more money and time and effort answering public records requests than what the statutes are going to provide. But certainly there are certain mechanisms to figure out what that is, and many cities will just pass a fee structure like any other fee structure within the city as it relates to public records requests.
Okay, my second, I guess more of a comment is, I'm always really, really hesitant to try to stifle the ability for the public to get public records. But obviously there's a fine line here, and what is and is not abuse versus just, your average citizen wanting an email or wanting information. And so, when I look at the list up here, I would venture a guess that most of the citizens in the city who want records are probably doing it via electronic and not necessarily trying to get personal information or anything like that, or body worn cameras, anything like that. And so I guess that's a very long way of saying, I don't mind the other charges on here for the specific things, but I'm a little bit hesitant just on the electronic transmittals, simply because I don't want it to be harder for a citizen to be able to get information on what their government is doing. But if we don't charge something on there, is that going to solve the issue of the company back east?
So, a short answer to that is most of these companies are not authorized to spend any money. So if you tell them that they owe 10 cents, they will withdraw their request.
Councilmember Ball.
I guess what I'm troubled by is back in the personal and whatever, why would some company on the East Coast or whatever want that information?
Being selling.
There's several organizations out there that are not necessarily malicious, but that you have like Open the Books, you have different organizations that do this just comprehensive data collection on local, state, federal government employees and track that information.
Mayor,
Yeah.
and keep in mind, from the standpoint of the fee structures and where it's statutory based, it's not, you're not being prohibited or doing something that's not permitted. In conjunction with the Public Records Act that the legislature has passed, it's also saying we also recognize there are costs associated with doing it. So we're also going to allow these fees to be collected in the process of doing those records. And so a city can't say, well, I'm going to charge $20 a minute for body cam footage. That's not going to work. But the legislature has recognized that there is some cost associated with it, and cities can or cannot do it depending on their own specific decision making.
So what would,
Go ahead.
what would stop us then if what you're saying, Kyle, on them not being allowed to spend any money, then could we theoretically say, okay, you want electronic transmittals, it's going to cost you a penny? Would that solve the issue?
My understanding is that we cannot go above the statutory limit, but we can go below.
Councilmember Kurtz.
So what you're looking for is some direction on whether we want to entertain this in the future and you guys would come together with something?
Yeah, Evan, next slide, please. So this font is a little smaller than I thought. So here's the staff recommendation is to bring back, so plenty of additional research, but bring back a draft resolution to establish a fee schedule that aligns with common local statewide policies that recover a portion of the growing cost of providing the public records while preserving access for the benefit of our community. So that is a very long sentence to say we would bring back a draft resolution for a fee schedule.
The reason that I asked that, I think it would give a little bit of time because I hear what Mayor Pro Tem is saying about not wanting to prevent or discourage people who have a legitimate reason to ask for things who live in the community. And I appreciate that too, but I also understand the costs associated with the electronic, like there's all these costs people don't think about the cloud storage and the power to the computers and all the things that make all that happen too. So when you guys hopefully do bring something back, if there maybe are a couple options that we can consider, that would be helpful so that we can talk through those.
Absolutely.
All right, any further questions for Kyle or Deputy Chief? Right, not hearing any?
All right, thank you.
Good. All right, so we will jump into our next big topic of the evening. Town Square Library / Community Center Planning Update.
All right, Mayor, I'm
Welcome.
going to kick this off
Okay, great.
by way of a quick introduction, and then we will turn it over to the team to make the presentation. And so it is interesting to hear some of the feedback that we see or that I hear, not only looking at some of our social media commentary, but also just personal comments that are made in the course of just regular conversations. And that is that there are many people who are coming into this conversation for the first time, possibly tonight, but who have not necessarily been tuned in from the very beginning. And so before we invite the team to deliver the presentation, I just want to go really quickly over, say, the last 6 months or so, just to bring everybody up to speed to how we got here and what they're going to hear as the presentation unfolds. And so looking back to mid-February, we had the initial facility master planning workshop with the council. Our partners from BCRA made that presentation, and it was essentially the initial data that was collected and presented of the viable options for managing the growth and the future needs of the city operations using the existing footprints of city facilities that were within ownership of the city at that time. There was a recommendation made for a special meeting on the 25th, and during that time was when the options or the proposals were discussed regarding this possible future project for a library and a community space out at the Town Square site. And so a consensus was reached at that time to develop several options, and those are the ones that we are bringing back forward for you to consider tonight. It was at the next meeting, early March, when that work order was approved for Turner and Townsend Heery to begin that work, and again, using our partners at BCRA to put these options together. Fast forwarding to June 3rd, we brought an update of the master facility planning to you via another workshop where we included some of the PD options that weren't ready for prime time during that initial February presentation. And that was just essentially a month and a half ago. And if you'll remember at that time, we were talking about two lines of options. We had option one line, which included several things, and we had an option two line that included several things. And it was at that meeting on June 3rd where the option one line was essentially eliminated from consideration. The council said, we're going to go with option two. And those are both laid out in this document that you have. I don't know which page, but it's one of those in here, and also with the electronic version. And the team is going to go over that as they approach the podium. And then on the next meeting on June 17th, that's when the council authorized us to move forward with a work order by approving a work order for the development of the design and construction project management for relocating City Hall over to the Legacy Church building, which brings us forward to tonight on July 15th, which we had mentioned to the council going all the way back to February that we were targeting this meeting to bring back those options. Actually, it was the March 4th meeting to bring back those options that you authorized us to develop. They were three of them. The team is going to talk about each of those as we go through this presentation. And without any further delay on my part by way of introduction, I'm going to ask Ben to take the mic, introduce the team, and get this presentation kicked off.
So Evan, if you could get that presentation up, get started. So before I get started, I just want to introduce a couple more folks that you probably have, at least one you have. But so we've got the BCRA staff that's been working with us since our meeting in February. We've got Nikki and Amanda, who you've been briefed before by. This time we've got Kent McLaren with us here from BCRA. He's going to talk a lot about the site planning. He is quite the subject matter expert on this, so he's helped us with that. He'll go through some of the constraints and things like that. Go to the next slide, please. And then obviously we've gotten Jandy and Michaela and a couple other folks have helped us kind of develop these options for you as requested by you in the back when we met back in February. So could you go back one second? Sorry. All right, so I'm gonna give you a quick master planning recap, and then I'm gonna get out of the way and let Jandy and BCRA talk to you about the options. And then so they'll go through. We got quite an extensive survey response. I think it was over almost 800 responses, which is phenomenal. So Jandy's going to go over those. Kent's going to kind of go over the design constraints. That site is a little bit constrained. So you want in your site plans, I said you are allowed to look at your presentation while we go along too. Forgot to mention that. Yeah. So I know there's a lot of little things there, so it's a little easier to see. It's right in front of you. So Ken will go through those constraints, go a little bit over the site plan, and then kind of combination of Jandy and Matt will go through the options and kind of some next steps. So next slide, please. All right, so this is the same slide you saw back on June 3rd. This is the program deficits by department. Mark mentioned about City Hall. We are in the process of selecting an architect for that project. Expect to have that back for your approval as early as our next meeting. So we'll have that. We're moving along quickly on that one. The police department, I just want to note, based on the option we chose, we would need the library to relocate. That was part of option two, which we'll show you here in a second. Public Works, I've got some plans for that. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we get into CFP for next year. And then obviously the main event here today is to talk about the library and how we can close some of that deficit. All right, next slide, please. All right, so here's option one, option two. It's very small. I can't even read it from here or on my slides, but I think the one thing we want to focus on here, we've obviously got the library project we're going to talk about today. You will see a cost range, which I can't read from here, but by memory, it's somewhere in between a little less than $13 million and 15.6 or something like that. So that represents the range of the three options. We've got one option that I think is about 18,000 square feet. That's the smallest. That's the 12 point whatever figure. And then the larger figure is the larger library with community flex space, which is close to 23,000 square feet. But we'll go into those in more detail. I just wanted to kind of show you the difference from the slide. I know you've all seen it before. So I will go ahead and turn my time over to Jandy to go over the survey results.
So Evan, let's move to the first slide on the survey. So as part of this project, we launched a community survey to gather input on the future library and what we're calling the community flex space. So that's the phrase that you'll hear throughout the presentation today. The survey was open for 4 weeks and was promoted heavily with the help of Robin from the Community Engagement Commission, along with the Friends of the Library. We were able to share the survey information with all of the local service organizations, Lions, Rotary, Kiwanis. We also had Friends of the Library pass out survey information at the Adorkable Flowers May Day event, since that was a big community event we had during this time. We also were able to get the survey into all of the local schools, into their local newsletter that went out in May. So we were able to get it at Liberty Creek, Liberty Lake, Selkirk, and Ridgeline, hoping to get some good feedback from families and students. We also promoted the survey at the library and through our email outreach that the library does. So just like Ben was saying, we were able to get 772 survey responses. This is the most survey responses the city has ever gotten for any survey. We were very, very pleased with the responses. It just really shows the strong level of engagement that the community has in this project. They're engaged and they're interested and they're wanting to give us their feedback on what they're looking for. So this is an example of what the survey looked like. There was 8 total questions. The first question we asked them was, do you believe there should be more indoor gathering spaces in Liberty Lake? 82% of the participants said yes. The top 3 educational programs that people had interest in attending were STEM, author talks or speakers, and then cooking or nutrition classes. The third question was on community activities and cultural events. Number 1 was adult leisure, hobbies, and crafts. Second, cultural or community events. And third, children's programming. So the thing that stuck out to me with this is people are interested in more than just events for their children. They're wanting enrichment and events for themselves and as adults. And that's something that would be easier to provide a community if we had larger community gathering spaces. The top 3 ways the community envisions using available indoor gathering space. This was about meeting space. Number 1 was medium-sized rooms for 8 to 15 participants. Number 2 was small groups of occupants, 2 to 8 participants. I guess actually those are tied, both at 56%. And then number 3 was large group meeting spaces of 15 to 25 occupants. So currently we have 1 study room in the library that can accommodate up to 10 people. You'll see later in the slides as we go through the conceptual layouts, but we have 5 or 6 meeting spaces in each of these designs. And there's some for small groups, medium-sized groups, and then larger groups. So next slide, Evan. Top 3 requested maker spaces or tech-focused capabilities. 1 was 3D printers. 2 was sewing machines and other craft capabilities. And then 3rd was audio video editing stations. So this is something that we would provide in the library through our Library of Things collection, which is when you can check out a variety of items like things like sewing machines, Cricut, paint, yarn, anything you can imagine. This is just not something we can currently provide in the library because we don't have any shelf space to store it. And then the audio video editing studios, you'll see in each of the designs, we have a space for a podcast studio where we could provide this service. Top 3 outdoor features are outdoor tables for meeting space, community garden, and then a playground. The last 2 questions were the open answer questions where participants could, type whatever feedback they wanted to provide us with. So that's a little bit trickier to display to you guys today. But we asked about additional services the community would be interested in having the library offer, things that they don't currently see. And then the last question was on additional community feedback. So is there anything else you would like to tell us that would impact your decision on a future library or indoor gathering space? So we tried to summarize those in different categories. So you guys can look at that a little bit more in depth later. That's the information that I have about the survey. So I think I'm going to turn the time over now to Ken.
All right, thanks. we just wanted to go over, I'll keep this pretty high level. But of course, we'll entertain any questions about detail. Our goal at this stage of this feasibility process was to evaluate organizational concepts such that we could have a legitimate conversation with city planners about making this thing work. We're not trying to design a building, but we're trying to make design decisions that we know can move forward in the process. Primary design drivers, of course, at this stage was site entrance for vehicles, pedestrian entrance for the building, and then taking a look at surrounding uses that were viewed either as desirable connections or less compatible uses that we needed to provide some type of buffer or where there was mitigation desired. So next slide, please. The zoning demands on this side, well, let me orient you to this graphic right here, just because we have the horizontal nature of the screens to display here. We've taken the site and on this plan and we've rotated it counterclockwise about almost 90 degrees. So to the north is Appleway Ave, and what we call south is Mission Ave, which is on the right side of the screen, and then Signal Drive is to the east, which is across the top of the screen. So in the conversation with planners that we had during the process, some of the things that most affected what we're doing at this stage were the zoning demands that the building situate itself to be along the property line on Signal Drive and the property line on Mission Ave, and more specifically required that the entrance to the building be off that corner of the site. Because of traffic engineering principles, we discovered the best opportunity for parking was off of Signal Drive, which necessarily wanted to drag the entrance of the building to be more convenient for patrons off the north end of the building. So we tried to mitigate in that discussion with library staff. We also took a look at existing context. There's already some pre-existing development of civic outdoor space directly to the west, which is the park there. We also are aware that there's a farmer's market to the north and potentially some future development potential along East Appleway. So we wanted to avoid that portion of the site that is available. And then there's a retail establishment, a restaurant on that southwest corner, or there's a restaurant there that might potentially want some buffer from the library development. So the design response was essentially vehicle access off Signal Road with a cross-site connection to the existing parking lot at that civic park. We tried to develop some entrance options with each of the planning studies that we took a look at. Also, we wanted to maintain outdoor green space. Jandy mentioned the desire for some outdoor playground space for kids, outdoor reading areas, just outdoor program areas for library uses. And since we don't have a direct connection of this building to the farmer's market, we thought that what we're calling a green corridor, that would be a north-south connection from the west side of the facility to the farmer's market, would be a way to address that. We found that community flex spaces are most successful when they're attached to outdoor green space and community parks, and we've had several examples of that we can speak to. So we've used that vehicle connection to just be a traffic calming feature, maybe a tabletop type speed bump or road bump with pedestrian type paving, with a texture type paving to make that connection and signal that is pedestrian space to connect the outdoor spaces with the library, with the outdoor spaces associated with the park and the farmer's market. So with that, next slide, please. Yep, so we've got three options here that you're going to speak to, and since the design drivers were each of these three options are similar, the only difference that you'll see in some of these options is primarily the footprint of the building. I'll be describing the main components of those as we go through the options.
So Evan, if you could go back to that site really quick. So now that Ken has talked about the mechanics of the site, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the history and the vision behind Town Square Park, because I feel that many members of our community are not familiar with it and don't have that context. So after the founding of our city, this piece of property was purchased intentionally with the vision of creating town square, a central place where the community could gather. And council members Van Ormond and Kennedy have talked very passionately about this and what the vision of the city was previously. And if people have moved to the city recently, they might not be aware of that vision. So in 2007, there was a bond measure to build a library and a community center on this property. Unfortunately, that bond did not pass, but the city went on to develop Town Square Park, which is, as we all know, the home of the farmers market. It has remained a long-term vision of the city and of our mayor and several of our city council members to continue developing this space into something even more meaningful than just the farmers market, making it into a downtown center, a destination, a true community hub. What we're presenting today builds on that legacy and brings us one step closer to fulfilling that original intent that we had after the city was founded. The library and the community flex space is the next step in fully realizing the potential of this property, because libraries are the public square of every community. They are places of knowledge, learning, and connection. Bringing a library and community flex space to this site isn't just about providing access to books or to meeting space, something we need. It's about creating opportunities for shared experiences that enrich the lives of everyone in the city. Every Saturday throughout the summer, people come from City of Spokane, North Idaho to visit our farmers market. Adding a library and a community space to this space means we can bring visitors to Town Square Park, not just one day a week, but all 7 days of the week. As you'll see in the upcoming slides, we've incorporated a playground into this design, and we've been very intentional to design the space so that everything flows seamlessly together. It encourages the public to enjoy the entire area. A family might come to the farmers market, take their kids over to play on the playground, and then go in and visit the library. When people come to Town Square for the farmers market, or they come to attend library programs in this space or rent a meeting room, they're also likely to stop for gas, pick up groceries, visit a restaurant. This kind of development supports our local economy and brings and gives us a sense of community. This property will serve both our current population and many new families who will join our community in the years to come. It will offer us a beautiful place to gather with neighbors and live out our vision that we keep talking about, Liberty Lake together. Let's make this dream a reality. So let's move on to the next slide. So we're going to bring you we have our 3 deliverables that we're going to bring you today. These are the things that you guys requested in the work order. So I'm going to break down what that all was. I'm going to pull up my little slide so I can read it easier. So the first option is a library only. It is an 18,000 square foot building. This square footage was decided on based on the community needs assessment. Each of these projects will take 3 years to complete. The total cost for the first option is $12.93 million. Amanda will go in depth and show you what all that contains. Option 2 is our library and community flex space. The library itself is 19,000 square feet, and there is 4,000 square feet for the community flex space. So total, the square footage on that project is 23,000 square feet, and it's a $15.62 million total. Option 3 is a library and smaller community flex space. The library itself is 18,000 square feet, and the community flex space is 1,000 square feet. So that's a total of 19,000 square feet, and that project is $13.81 million total. So each of these design options include 4 key priorities established by staff for the future library. Before we dive into the layouts, I wanted to point those out to you. So my 4 key priorities with the library on this space, first was adequate gathering space. Each of these designs include small, medium, and large size meeting rooms, places where our community can gather together. As I mentioned in my last presentation in June, currently the library is the only place in Liberty Lake that members of our community can gather for free. There is no other space in the community. So this was my top priority with this project, was establishing several meeting spaces that our community could meet in and utilize for free. Number 2 is a dedicated teen space. We want to be able to provide our teens in this community with a place that they can go and hang out with their friends after school or on weekends. And the library is a safe place for them to do that. So each of our designs have a dedicated teen space where Michaela can host their programs and that they're able to hang out with their friends and actually display their artwork because there's a gallery space. Number 3, each of these designs include a layout where it's possible to provide more books for our growing community. As our community grows, we also need to be able to provide them with more resources. And then lastly, access to basic and emerging technologies. So each of these designs include a larger computer lab and dozens of floor outlets for everyone's devices that they have nowadays. We're also going to provide them to access to new technologies through our podcast studio and our expanded Library of Things collection. So now I'm going to turn the time back over to Ken for the site layout.
So here's the option number 1. We had to solve for required number of parking stalls on the site, showing some specifics of how we're going to develop that. We would develop that green corridor along the western edge, but this is primarily just 100% library program on this one. The entrance, as you're seeing this, is directly off the parking lot, so it doesn't satisfy the zoning requirement for the entrance off of the corner of the building on Mission and Signal. But in conversation with city staff, it was suggested that there are things that we can do architecturally to respond to the intent of that requirement in the zoning ordinance. So again, just the blue portion is the building footprint, the gray is essentially paving, and you're seeing that green corridor that connects that outdoor space to the north end of the site with the farmer's market. Next slide, I think we're going to have Amanda speak to the detail of the floor plan.
Thank you, Kent, and thank you for having us here today. It's nice to see you all again. So before we dive into these plans in detail, I want to reiterate that each of the plans you're about to see are conceptual layouts only. They're still high level, flexible, and subject to change. And with that, let's dive in. So as you enter from the main north entrance, patrons are welcomed into a spacious lobby, which has been designed to handle the flow of people even during large programs or meetings. To the side of the lobby are the meeting and programming rooms, separated by a movable partition, which can be opened, and these spaces then combined to hold up to 116 people. Restrooms are centrally located nearby for convenience. You'll notice the large set of double doors that are near the restrooms. These doors can be secured after hours, allowing community use of the meeting room, programming room, lobby, and restrooms while keeping the rest of the library space secure. The staff workroom, located just off of the lobby, accommodates workstations for up to 8 staff members and includes direct access to the book drop collection area, a staff restroom, and a break room. And moving past the security line, a central computer lounge offers patrons access to technology in a semi-private space, while also allowing staff clear sight lines for safety. In the heart of the building are 4 quadrants of book stacks grouped together to create an open, light-filled space that enhances visibility and environmental comfort. At the center of these stacks sits the main circulation desk, strategically placed for easy access and strong visibility throughout the library. The teen area features a gallery wall, providing a space to display student work and build a sense of pride and ownership. The children's area includes both imaginative play space and a family room. A single-user restroom is around the corner for added convenience. And there is direct access to the outdoor space and playground from that children's area. This plan includes 5 study rooms, primarily located along the south side to maximize natural light while maintaining quiet zones. And lastly, staff offices were situated in close collaboration with library staff to best support day-to-day operations. The conceptual layout for option 1, as Jandy mentioned, has an estimated cost of $12.93 million, including soft costs. So we can move on to the next slide, please. This next slide is a glance at the metrics of this option. You can review it in greater detail at another time, but we essentially wanted to highlight that this option meets all programmatic requirements in an efficient manner. So next slide, please. And Kent will review the site plan for option 2.
As mentioned before, the overall site planning scheme is consistent between the three options. The difference on this one is the massing of the building that you see that's at that angle. That would be the community flex space. So we're trying to set that apart from the balance of the library. And a challenge that we had with each of these schemes that included the community flex space with the library is to how to allow those functions to operate independent of one another if that community flex space is used during a time when the library is not open. So we responded to that particular program requirement from library staff in each of these schemes. I think what else to mention here. Other than that is, again, trying to maintain a strong connection with that community flex space with the outdoor green space. There was a suggestion from city staff to have a direct connection from that main entrance lobby space back to the outdoor space. So this particular scheme makes that connection out to the outdoor playground on the west side of the facility. I'll let Amanda continue.
We can move on to the next slide, please. So the conceptual plan for option 2 is the largest and most flexible of the 3 layouts. So it builds upon the strengths of option 1 with thoughtful enhancements that support both everyday use and future growth. This layout features dual entry points into the lobby from both the parking lot and the town square side, offering a more dynamic arrival experience and greater accessibility. It also provides a unique secondary entry through the children's area, which opens to outdoor space and a playground, creating a seamless indoor-outdoor connection. Once again, the meeting and programming rooms are separated by a movable partition, accommodating 47 and 68 occupants respectively, or 115 people when combined. And these meeting spaces can be available after hours. As for the family room, it is paired with a single user restroom within it for added convenience. Excuse me. And an additional single user restroom is located nearby, reinforcing this area's family-friendly focus. Across all 4 quadrants, we've maintained a consistent and balanced allocation of book stacks, ensuring robust collections while preserving open, navigable spaces. What truly sets option 2 apart, I'm sure you've noticed, is the inclusion of that community flex space, approximately 3,500 square feet in size, plus around 500 square feet in support spaces. This area can be configured as 2 separate meeting rooms or opened into one expansive venue for up to 196 guests. Based on community feedback, we've imagined the space supporting classes, workshops, or large celebrations like weddings. A dedicated green room and restroom are shown to provide support for performances or special events, increasing the versatility of the space. Architecturally speaking, option 2 also embraces the outdoors more fully than the other concepts, with the greatest opportunities for exterior glazing. This not only brings natural light deep into the interior, but visually connects the library to its surroundings, inviting the community, inviting in the community and allowing the building to glow in the evening as a welcoming civic beacon. Altogether, option 2 offers the most expansive, flexible, and connected experience, reflecting both current needs and future aspirations. This conceptual layout, as a reminder, is estimated to cost around $15.62 million, including soft costs. And we can move on to the next slide to look at the key metrics. So the most notable difference here is the inclusion of community flex space, which adds significant versatility and capacity to the overall layout, and it also serves the largest sizes of groups. The staff work area in this option is also larger, with room for up to 12 workstations, making this layout well-positioned to support future staffing needs and operational growth. So overall, option 2 offers both the space and the flexibility to grow alongside the community it serves. And then we've got one last site plan to review.
There's only a couple of things to note on this one. This essentially tries to keep the building footprint as compact as possible. We've, on this particular scheme, the community flex space, I think, has been reduced to around 1,000 square feet. And then it tries to make a split the difference between an entrance on the corner of Mission and Signal versus an entrance to the far north off the parking lot. This puts the primary front door of the building, if you will, facing the public way, which is a design principle that we believe that zoning ordinance was trying to address. So it puts that main entrance facing the street. I'll let Amanda go through the details again.
All right, so that brings us to conceptual layout 3, which offers a different organizational flow compared to the previous 2 layouts, which have been presented here to invite feedback and offer an alternative perspective. So this option features a more linear layout with the main entrance located on the east side off of Signal Road and the sidewalk. This entry location is the farthest from the parking lot in all 3 options because of that. Upon entering the building, patrons are welcomed at a centrally placed circulation desk. And directly behind that desk is the staff work area, which accommodates up to 9 workstations. From the lobby, patrons can move to the right toward the meeting rooms and restrooms, or to the left toward collections and study areas. Adult stacks are located conveniently near the entry, which we thought was a thoughtful touch for patrons with mobility challenges. The computer lounge acts as a subtle divider between the adult and teen areas, offering some separation while also maintaining accessibility. And the book stacks in this option are staggered, which may reduce visibility, but can help with sound separation and creating more intimate reading zones. The family room again includes a single-user restroom within and an additional unisex restroom nearby. All study rooms are grouped in the southeast corner, providing a dedicated quiet zone. And this layout meets the library's needs for meeting and programming rooms, and like option 2, also includes a community flex space, although this one's smaller in size. All 3 of those rooms that you see are designed to open to one another for maximum flexibility, which would allow for gatherings of up to 238 people when combined. However, one key consideration in this layout is that the community flex room is only accessible from the exterior unless it is being used in conjunction with the meeting or the programming rooms. It does include dedicated restrooms, allowing it to function independently as needed. And if we move on to the next slide, we've also explored an option 3A, which is a sketch just showing a slightly modified configuration. And in this version, the community flex and programming rooms would be accessible from the interior, while the meeting room would have exterior access only unless combined with one or both of the others. So this concept would need further validation, but we believe it could be refined if interior access to the community flex space becomes a priority. And then conceptual model 3 and 3A come in at approximately 13.81 million, including soft costs. And we can move on to the next slide, please. Looking at the metrics, option 3 aligns closely with the others in terms of square footage and program elements. The key differences really come down to the spatial configuration and flow rather than the capacity. And next slide. All right, so we know that was a lot of information to take in. So we put together a quick summary of the pros and cons for each option to help compare them a little bit more easily. So first off, it's important to note that all 3 options meet the library's programmatic needs. So regardless of the layout, the core functions are all accounted for. Option 1, this option has some really great features like a staff restroom directly in the break area and the largest computer lounge, which is great for public access to technology. However, it does not include a community flex space, and there is no restroom within the family room, which may limit convenience for families with young children. As for option 2, this stands out because it includes a flexible, open community flex space, and it can host the most people overall, which would be 311 people between all of those meeting rooms. It also has the best setup for future staff growth and comes in at the lowest cost per square foot, which makes it a really efficient use of space. That said, since it is the largest building overall, it also comes with the highest total project costs and includes 1 fewer small study room compared to the others. Option 3 offers a smaller community flex space, but still allows for up to 239 people when all large meeting spaces are combined. All of the study rooms are grouped together, which could work well for maintaining quiet zones, and it also has the largest Friends of the Library storage area, which may be helpful for long-term operations. On the downside, this layout has the least openness and visibility between spaces, and it brings in less natural light due to fewer exterior windows, which was a decision made to meet the quantity of book stacks required. It also does not include a drive-up book drop, and it has both the smallest computer lounge and the smallest lobby of all 3 options. The conceptual cost of option 3 presents the highest cost per square foot at $737.25, including soft costs. This is largely due to the product engineering and structural costs associated with the operable partition that goes between the meeting, programming, and the community rooms. So hopefully this side-by-side comparison makes it easier to see the trade-offs between each of the layouts, and we're happy to dive deeper into any of these details or answer any questions as you consider next steps.
So to wrap up real quick, and then we'll get to your questions. From the beginning, our city's founders have had a clear vision of Town Square, a central place where our community can gather, connect, and thrive together. This project is more about more than just buildings and programs. It's about fulfilling a long-standing goal for Liberty Lakes Town Square, a place that reflects who we are as a community and supports who we're becoming. We believe that by bringing together the library, community flex space, playground, farmers market, and the original Town Square Park, we're finally bringing that vision to life. Each element complements the others, creating a cohesive and welcoming public square that serves our entire community. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to council for questions. As you'll see on our next slide, our plan is to take these 3 options into the community at the farmers market, barefoot in the park, an open house at the library to gather community input. But before we do that, I'd like to open it up to the council for questions and feedback.
Mayor Pro Tem.
All right, thank you, Jandy and the crew. I appreciate all of this information. And I think that these are some really good concepts that are in here. I want to start off by saying that when I've looked at this and when I've thought about this, I've thought of two main questions. One, what is the appetite of the community to be able to approve this? Because that's going to be an important step. And then 2, what are the numbers that we actually need? So if you were just asking me, completely separate from all of this discussion, which one I like best, I like option 2 best, because I think it provides the most amount of community space. I think the building is unique in how it's laid out. And I just think it flows the best. That having been said, when I first thought about this, I was thinking, okay, what would it look like if we had 19,000-ish square feet, including the library and the community flex space? I wasn't necessarily thinking we would have 19,000 square feet plus another 4,000 or 5,000 square feet of community flex space. And the reason why I guess I was thinking about it that way is because when we had our last library report, and I think it was June, we talked very specifically about how many meetings that the library was hosting. And I asked the question about how many of those folks are there for the meeting or there versus the library. And Jandy, you were mentioning based on the calculations that I did on the 400 meetings or so, a little less than
468.
468 meetings. If you had an average of, let's say, 40 people, and some of the meetings are more and some of the meetings are less, but let's just say it's an average of 40 people, about a third of the folks who are visiting the library are attending one of those meetings. And so from that perspective, I thought it was really important to make sure that we are not necessarily doing all library or all community center, that we're doing them both together in a layout that can be approved and is something that the community would support. So that's a very long way of prefacing my comments here by saying, if you look at option 2, my thought about what we would see in an option like option 2, for example, is that the meeting room, program room, and maybe to a lesser extent the study, but for sure the meeting room and program room would actually be part of the community center and not necessarily a separate item. That may be a way for us to try to condense some of these costs a little bit. The other question I had, and while I think it would be really nice to have, is what is the cost estimate for the playground piece? Because that's something that we didn't necessarily think about or talk about going into this is putting a playground. I understand the reason for it, but it wasn't necessarily something that we were going forward with as part of this overall layout. So is the playground piece, 100,000 estimated? Is it more than that? Is it less than that? Can you give us an idea of what you're thinking the playground piece would cost?
I don't have a number. Our thought had been, obviously, some of these things we might have to take piece by piece. So maybe
Right.
we open the library and community center, and then we work with Parks and Arts and the Parks Master Plan on when the playground would be implemented.
But just real quick to follow up on that, Jandy, then, so the cost estimates in here, does that include the playground? It does. Okay. Okay.
That's number cargo. So you look at a playground that size, I mean, we've got some at Pavilion Park, it's right around 200,000.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
This is why it's a group effort.
Okay.
Oh, just one other quick comment. As we consider this tonight, I think it's important to remember what we have in the budget right now for this, which is about 3.8 million-ish right now. And so as we're thinking about, okay, what is this going to look like on a ballot measure if we go forward? To me, I think it'd be much more attractive if we could get the ballot measure number below 10 as opposed to above 10, which if you add the below 10, let's say 9.8 or whatever, or maybe it's 10 exactly, to the 3.8, that gives us a target, in my opinion, of about 13.8 from all of these. Now that's just my point of view. Maybe others disagree with that, but I always think it'd be better if we can get it below double digits as opposed to being above double digits. Thank you.
And we can also keep in mind potential grant opportunities or fundraising efforts to help along this project.
And obviously, we're not here tonight to make the decision on which layout or the dollar amount that comes after the community engagement, but very good points. Who's next? Okay, Councilmember Kurtz, then Councilmember Van Orman.
So I had questions about the payment mechanisms, which I'm sure would be done later, because in the beginning of this document had all the other city buildings that we need to be considering too for that total cost. And so I have curiosity about the bigger picture and how that plays into all the other things that we need to accommodate with space shortages across all areas essentially at this point in the city. And I was going to say something about the playground too, but I think that to your point, Jandy, I think some of that comes with the community. Some of it can be staggered later. And I appreciated the really big visuals. Thank you so much for that. So the community outreach, because I feel like one of the things that we've all agreed on is perhaps is getting community input. And I see what you guys have for next steps here. But I had a couple questions about additional things and wondering if you guys have thought about these and what your plan is. But I know you said that you had over 700 people who responded to the survey. Is there a way to reach out to those folks to let them know and send some of these things to them?
So at the very end of the survey, we asked a question that if you were interested in more information or to come to an open house or that sort of thing, to provide your email. And so we do have email contacts for those who are willing to provide those. So our plan would be to reach out to them and invite them to an open house, or if we did something at Trailhead with community engagement, a town meeting and that sort of thing, that we can get that information to them and follow up.
Okay, because I think the understanding what the community's response is to these options would help with any decision that I was going to make about which one to choose. So, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Van Orman.
Yes, Jandy and crew, thank you. This looks amazing. Trying to visualize what we had talked about as far as meeting space. And that's pretty much where we're at, is there's nothing in Liberty Lake that is large enough to accommodate. The hub is one of them, but as we're finding out, even for Pace, the 400 to 450 that we need, there's no space to put it unless we had it in two different places. That would be my main thing, is to have a big enough spot. And if you're planning on doing any type of things for the kitchen, is to have that available as well. What is the green space? I keep seeing that. I'm going, green space, what does that mean?
So do you
Green
have
room.
a particular point that you were?
Green room.
Oh, the green room. So that's an area for like performers. Like if you have like a speaker coming or that sort of thing, they can be in that area getting ready. Like if we have a children's musician, they can put on their costume. So it's just a prep area for people to get ready for the
A
event.
bride could replace,
Yes.
do up her makeup again.
Yes.
I love the fact of everything that you guys have incorporated into it. I'm just wondering if we can take some of those programming rooms, meeting rooms, and make the meeting spaces bigger and then cut them up if you need to with partitions, if that's at all possible.
So we kind of did that with option 3, where we have the meeting space, the programming space, and the community space all combined together with the partitions. So that's something you can see in option 3 and option 3A. The challenge with that is just those partitions are extremely expensive. So that's why it was a little bit of a higher cost. And then depending on what spaces are activated, it makes the other spaces less activated. So it's like if we're doing story time in the programming room, if that wall's completely up, it makes using that meeting space behind us inaccessible during that time. So that's why we separated it on option 2, where you're able to literally use every single space at the same time if you need to. So it's just one of those things where pros and cons trade-offs depending on what option you go with.
I am looking forward to hearing back from the public.
Yes.
What they want to see. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Councilmember Kennedy, or go ahead.
Once again, everybody touched on this, but this is excellent, absolutely excellent. As most individuals know, every time there's some sort of presentation, after that, I say, Mark, can I get a hard copy? Give me a hard copy, so I can be able to see what's there. So this is excellent. I do like the 3 options. The benefit of options are, we can look at that and say, oh, I don't care for this one, so it's good to be able to put that stuff out there. Looking at it today, spent a lot of time on it. Of course, the one that jumps out to me is number 2, is great. The one that does not jump out to me in any way, shape, or form is number 1. And I would caution as we move forward, the important thing for me is that how is this going to be packaged for the citizens? Now, we've been through this in 2008, 2016, 2017. Okay, I want this to work. I want it to work, and I want it to work well. So I think it's critical how we put this across to citizens, that how this is going to benefit them on it. On page 5, it talks us the survey results, total of 772, and it gives what is interested here. What's interesting is that, and I understand the library is important. Get the fires going, pitchforks. Everything here is about space, not library. But it's important about space, and that's the emphasis. So my recommendation for us to seriously consider, when we go to the point of doing something at farmers market, get input, don't show number 1. Okay, don't show number 1 at all, because there's no community space there whatsoever. And I think it only becomes confusing to the public. Is it, well, they want a new library, or do they want a community center with a library? So too many choices, I think, can work against us. One thing that jumps out at me immediately, looking through it, is that all of these, I think we need to have a kitchen in there. I think that would be advantageous. We have one now, which is utilized limited, but in some of the libraries that I visited, they seem to have a pretty good success with that. Even Spokane Valley Library, they've said that repeatedly, I've heard from them, is that one thing that they failed to do was to put in a kitchen. And they really should have done something like that. The other thing that jumps out at me is the layouts, like the layouts, except the entrances. Now, Town Square, to me, has always been a center part where we can bring people to. And when I start looking at these layouts, we have, for the most part, facing commercial buildings and not facing into where all the people and activities are. The only one that does have that is, was it 2?
Option 2 has the dual entrances.
Yeah, the dual entrance
Yes.
on it. I think would be imperative if we can have it to where we're encouraging individuals not only to be at the library, but also have these activities outside of that. That would be between the library and the west side of the building. So if all the entrances, me as a layman looking at this, if the parking lot is there and everybody is moving to the east, which is visually not attractive, I think it just takes away from what we're trying to do there, that this is a nucleus on it, the library is there. I envisioned in the past, it had to come up with examples of a library, community center was an L shape on that corner, just as an idea being thrown out. Because an L shape, it incorporated to have playgrounds and that kind of stuff within the center, and also the buildings, what they're looking out at is a nice park area, kids playing, things of that sort there. So these are just some observations from the past, and so overall, I'm excited about this. I do know that we have to take in serious consideration, is at the same time, we're looking at doing something with City Hall being taken over into another building. There's a cost related to that. So we have a lot to look at, but what's important is what I think we're looking at is critical that we get done. Okay, and all of it get done in a reasonable time. Have the citizen support for something like this. Thanks.
Right. Councilmember Ball, did you have anything?
Well, yeah, I personally like two the best. Also, I like the dual entrance idea and the playground. I mean, it just seems like there's more light. Yeah. So one thing, and I did ask Ben about this in an email earlier today, but this may not be anything you know the answer to, but the property, of course, to the east, big gray area, is still large enough to develop into something, correct?
Yes, we didn't touch any of that piece of property.
Okay.
We didn't encroach on it at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
So it's untouched. Yes.
I still have an idea for that. So, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Great. We'll start back around because everybody's had a chance. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. So a couple of quick thoughts. First of all, I agree with Councilmember Kennedy. I don't think option number one is a starter. I would, to me, I would just throw that one out completely because I don't think that it does what we're trying to do with this particular project. I do wonder on option two. I prefer the layout of option two. I really like the dual entry as well. I think that's superb. I'm wondering if option two, if there's a way to condense a little bit. And whether that means combining meeting rooms here with flex space or what have you. And the reason why I say that is because, about a year ago at this time, we were talking about doing the library / meeting space in the Legacy Church building at 14,000 square feet. This has almost 10,000 more square feet than that. So I'm not sure that we can necessarily justify that big of an increase. I think what may be better is if we can combine some of these things, but keep this kind of an arc layout here, for lack of a better term, where the community spaces or community flex space is still separated. We still have the nice big lobby open area, and just push those things together a little bit, and then go out to the community with option 2 and 3 and see which one the community wants. But I think that's an important thing to point out. The other option quick thought that I had about option 2, and Jandy, I'll leave this to your expertise, but is there any drawbacks on option 2, if it were to stay the same, of having the major part of the library be so far away from the checkout and the lobby? And what I mean by that is that the way it's laid out right now in option 2 is you have to walk down a hallway, pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rooms in order to get to the actual library part of the library. And so I do wonder whether those should be swapped so that all of these friends of the library storage and break rooms and computer lounges and everything are on the other side, and the main part of the library is more up front. That's just a thought.
I'll give my opinion, and then if the architects have other things they want to add, they'll add that. We tried to mitigate this by having the circulation desk in the center. One of the challenges that we had is with trying to meet the requirements with the code and making that exterior glazing and make everything look attractive from the side of the road. A storage room doesn't look attractive from the road. Beautiful brick, glass books and study spaces look attractive from the road. So that's one of the reasons that we designed it that way.
Yeah, that's circulation.
So Jan, is this the circulation?
right.
Yes.
But there's also. the
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
that big kind of, that little square in the center of it.
Okay.
Obviously, we also wanted the meeting rooms and the programming rooms next to the community space so that we can access that after hours for community events. The reason that we have a meeting room and a programming room separate from the community space, A, is so, you know, Parks and Recs can run a program at the same time as the library is running a program.
Oh,
Yeah.
I get, I mean, I wish we could have 4 or 5 or 6 other rooms on here as well. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, what's gonna be too much to where it would be unsuccessful? We
Yes.
don't want it to get to the point where it's so large that it causes more people to vote against it if it goes to the ballot.
Yes, yes, of course.
I think one thing we should definitely consider after we get all of the community feedback and whatnot. There are great companies around that help with bond measures like this and the campaign and the messaging. I forgot the name of the one that helped, was it Cheney or I think it was Cheney? With their pool, right? We had a presentation by them at one of the meetings we went to. Wildly successful. Now, of course, they had some advantage because they were replacing an amenity they already had, so people were missing the old amenity. You know, but similar, right, would be replacing the library, but I think something we definitely need to look into what the cost of that would be and what the benefits could be when we get to that point. Councilmember Kurtz.
Jandy, do you remember the square footage recommendation from the needs assessment?
It was 16 to 19,000 square
Okay,
feet.
so we're on target.
Yes, so we're on target. So that's the reason that we brought a library in all of these designs that was 18,000 square feet, was just because with Legacy Church, it was too small of a space.
Right.
And
that's what
so we wanted to bring you what you asked for, which was one that meets the community needs assessment.
And that's what I was just remembering
Yeah.
is that one of the biggest pushbacks that the council had regarding the library space was that it was too small.
Yes.
And it wouldn't meet that need. And so we are at a point where it looks like we are going to meet that need.
Yes.
Do you feel like we're going to meet that need for the next 20 years? Like it's 19,000
Build out.
Yes, with the 19,000 square foot, we would definitely meet the needs for the next 20 years, particularly because it allows for additional staff space as far as the library goes, collection space, and then a very large community space. Our community is only going to grow. And so our meeting rooms for community events or even library job hunting, all of that stuff is going to grow.
Because I feel like the 2 deal breakers that put us on a different path from going in the Legacy Church building were that it was too small and that it didn't have a community space.
Yes.
And so what you guys have brought forward is something that actually meets the need and brings the community space. So I appreciate that we have those options. We're on target for what is needed now and in the future and what this council has asked for. So thank you.
Yeah, and just a reminder for the audience as well, and I think the council's well aware of the number, but we're looking at growing about another 8,000 people between now and build out. So that's what was taken into consideration. Go ahead.
The 18.5 though included, well, not 18.5, the 16 to 19 included meeting space, meeting rooms, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
But it didn't include a big, like, community flex space.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Councilmember Kennedy.
We referred to the needs assessment quite a few times, and like I have also, I think it's great that we spent the money for that, because it gives us a base to start to work on. That was suggestions there, and for me, it comes back again, I'm gonna reiterate myself here, is that how can this be presented to the public for them to say yes to? Now, I'm ecstatic if they would go for 19,000 square feet and 4,000 for the community center and things of the sort here, and get a kitchen and things of that in there. I'm totally in favor of that. Want to spend the $15 million? Bingo. I'm marking yes on that. That's my motivation for a long period of time. But at the same time, I think we have to be realistic, is that to even consider can we get by for less square footage? And the reason being is this, we have to be careful how we present this to the citizens. If we say to the citizens, the assessment says we need 18 to 19,000 square feet, common sense will say, people will ask the question, what are the other towns? What is Spokane Valley? Spokane Valley has 28,000 square feet. And they just built that for $15 million, I think it was. And if you take that relationship that we're using, they should have built 100 and some odd thousand square foot facility. This last week, I was in Pullman and Moscow and made a point to do some research on both of those. And in relationship to the population, what they have and utilize is substantially less. Coeur d'Alene is the same way, so is Post Falls. So keep in mind that how we present this can work against us. If we are so heavy that we have to have 19,000 square feet, we cannot survive without that. And at the same time, citizens start questioning, well, how is it that Spokane Valley gets by for so much less? How can Post Falls do that? How can Coeur d'Alene do that? What happens is they'll start looking at this and going, hold it, we don't need a new library. And we will shoot ourselves in the foot by saying we have to have, quote, 1 square foot per citizen. I just want to be very cautious how we move ahead on that, because this did come up in 2016, and when it came back to the vote on 2017.
I would just point out that the Valley does have multiple branches of their library. So they have Argonne, they have Valley, they have several branches throughout their community. Having one larger library is more cost effective than if we were to try and build 3 libraries.
Keep in mind, I only want to emphasize, let's look at what all of they are doing and be prepared that if it suddenly looks like this might not fly, where do we start cutting? Now, Councilman Cargill, I agree totally. If we can get below a certain number, I think that's great. It just has a better sound to it. I don't want to go through this again. I don't want to go through since 2008 when I've been sitting and working on this to see that we shoot ourselves in the foot by saying we can't get by for anything less than this. And the citizens look at it and say, boy, why is it we need so much more than anybody else? Okay. I want this to succeed. So let's do everything we can to make sure that this moves forward so the citizens get the right information and not confuse them with an example of a new library with no additional space. If that's the case, take page number 5 and tear it out. Because the whole thing, what we're doing here is because we want more square footage. For what? Look at these things, everything they want has to do with the community center and the flex space.
I think that's where when we get strategic and we find, hopefully whoever the entity is to help us with those things and how to package it and what the messaging is. So all great input. Does anybody else have any further questions? Hold on, we've been to you a couple of times. We'll go to Councilmember Van Orman.
I guess I need to get filled in again. 2008, how big was the building? Do you remember, Mark? Do you have those figures? I know that a lot of it was not even finished. It was
Right.
unfinished space.
There was quite a bit of unfinished space, which from a cost perspective actually works against the argument. It was 47,000 square feet was the total amount of space of the 2007, 2008. Right, and in today's dollars, that would have been about $25 million of development cost. In the 2016, 2017, I don't recall off the top of my head what the footprint was.
I think it was
I'm trying to remember too, and I can't recall. But I mean, there's less than 20,000 square feet.
Okay.
I hope I'm totally wrong on that.
Yeah, but I remember the dollar amounts though. So I guess the second one was about 13 million was the bond request, and the second one was around 11.
But we know that going backwards isn't going to help us.
No, exactly.
And we know what 20 years cost us for what we could have gotten versus what we're getting now.
Right.
So we can't put this up anymore.
No. Well, we're not going to get, well, you turned this down 5 years ago and now we're asking for that. No, this is a whole different ball game. Yeah. Whole different ball game.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else before we go back to Mayor Pro Tem? Okay, Councilmember.
My question is, when are we going to try to put this on a ballot?
Well, so again, there's the timeline with the different, and the different activities that have to happen. Danny, did you want that slide back up?
Evan, can you go to our last slide?
Right.
So we're trying to take advantage of some of the big events that we have coming up to get public input. So we're planning to do public engagement at Barefoot in the Park on August 2nd. We're planning to do an open house at the library on August 7th, like you guys saw that we did last August. We want to do public engagement at the farmers market on August 23rd. And then we would come back to the council with the input from the community and provide that to you on September 2nd.
When, just playing off of what Councilmember Ball said, when is the deadline, Mark, or maybe Rochelle will know, to get this to the auditor's office for the November ballot?
August the 4th.
So yeah, it won't be.
August 4th?
August the 4th.
It moved up a month? Because last time it was like last week of August.
It's August the 4th. It's 90 days in advance of the election.
Yes.
We are not recommending this to be on the November ballot. There's too much work to do between now and the deadline for us to have any feasible.
Go ahead.
So, if this is not on the November ballot, we shouldn't put it on the ballot until next November. And the reason why I say that is because our election turnouts in February or April or whenever we do, and the cost, exactly, whenever we do these elections in strange months, nobody turns out.
I believe it can only be on a general election ballot. Is that correct? So it would have to be the following
It would
November.
have to be November?
Yes.
So that would be staff's recommendation. If the council chooses to go to a bond measure, that we do it a year from now or subsequent years, because that will give us time to engage a bond consultant and also do a lot of educational efforts through our community to give them awareness on how bonds work and what they're going to be getting for their investment so that everyone has a clear understanding and we can set us up for a success and not just go to another 2007 bond election. So like Councilmember Kennedy and you guys have said, we want to do it right this time and pull out all of the stops and do everything that we can to make it as successful as we can. And then hopefully that will help us get the financing piece of it understood. And so we can give the community an accurate number of this is how much money we're asking you for. This is how much money the general fund is investing. This is how much fundraising we've been able to raise. This is grant opportunities that we're taking advantage of. So we can give them the best project for the smallest dollar amount.
And it's also going to be a lot easier to fundraise once we've nailed down which concept we're moving
Yes.
forward to.
Yes.
Hold on, we have Councilmember Kennedy first and then
I'm gonna be,
Councilmember.
quite honestly, I'm gonna be very concerned that it looks like that it's going towards a direction that should not be given to the people. And why is it, for as long as I can remember now, for the last year or so, what we've heard droves of individuals, same people coming in all the time saying, this is what the people want, this is what the people want, this is what the people want. And the council said, okay, we listen to you. We understand what you want, so we're gonna give you a choice in this matter. Now we're talking about that, well, maybe it shouldn't be on the ballot.
I don't think I've heard anybody say that.
We're just saying for the next November, 2026, not this November, 2025.
The simple fact is we don't have time to put together a bond measure for November with any degree of efficiency at this stage of the calendar. And so we would recommend bypassing November 25 for a future November.
If that would be the case, then what would be the advantage for us to go through all this at farmer's market and stuff? That's not good.
Just so in my mind, it would be to get public engagement, show them all the different options, and then we could bring that information back to
Understand.
you so that you guys can make a decision on which concept you want to move forward with
And
with the
And
public's
then we
input.
can fundraise, then we can work the finances,
Yes.
then we can work the marketing plan, and do it
Yes.
all correctly.
If you remember back to workshop, or not workshop, the open house that Jandy mentioned, when we went through this process, when we had the two options that we had developed for the Legacy Church property, it's the same concept. We want the council to be able to hear all of the public feedback on the options that we bring to them, hear the pros and cons, hear the likes, dislikes from all of those so that we can make a more informed decision about which final option we put through the process of getting ready for whatever the next steps are.
Mayor, can I make a motion to extend the meeting to 9:30?
You may. Do we have a-
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor of extending the meeting to 9:30, please say aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. Who had the floor? Oh, okay, I think we're done. Okay, and then we're back to Councilmember Ball.
No, now I can't read.
Sorry.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Burns.
I just wanted to say too, thank you for looking at the next steps for timeline and having it be before school starts so that families can engage too. And just, I think that's one of the things that we're learning is making sure we're knowing what other things are going on in the community at the same time. So we get people there and they're not splitting their time elsewhere.
Yes. Is an option partnering with the, with the local schools to have input night at maybe even partner it with like back to school night or parent conferences or something at the different schools in Liberty Lake I think that would give a great presence of, obviously it's not just families that use it, but I think that would be a great way to get some feedback. So it might just want to be something to consider.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Good. All right, were there any further questions for Jandy? We've still got council business in front of us. All right, moving forward, thanks to everybody's hard work. It looks great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
If you can indulge me for 15 seconds, I
Councilmember
just,
Park.
no. I just want to make sure that we recognize the efforts that not only staff put into this, but also the team at BCRA. We could not have made this presentation with the quality of options that we delivered without that partnership. So I just want to thank our partners at BCRA and then obviously city staff that were dedicated to bringing this to you within the time frame that you defined.
I agree. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, all right, so moving on, consent agenda, Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve general business consent agenda items 10A, B, C, and D.
Second. Sorry, I missed the second by Councilmember Kurtz. Those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A, B, C, and D, please say aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? The motion passes 5-0.
Moving on to general business item 11B, I'll make a motion to confirm the reappointment of Maria Hatcher to the Civil Service Commission.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Councilmember Kurtz, and Maria was not able to be here tonight. She's a nurse, wonky work schedule, but she's been a great asset to the Civil Service Commission, and I was very excited when she decided to reapply. So we have a motion and a second. So those in favor of reappointing Maria Hatcher to the Civil Service Commission, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to, actually, I'm going to need help with this motion.
Oh.
On the recreation agreement for a Wiley E. Waters whitewater rafting. Never thought I'd say that at the
I
council.
think you did okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any questions or discussion? Go ahead, Councilmember Ball.
They aren't even here, right? So what are we doing? We're just,
It's a pass-through. Jen's online. She'll answer
oh.
how it works. Just
Jen, what are we doing? We're just helping them sell tickets here and then we get 20%?
Yes, exactly. And it offers a wider variety of things that we could not offer here in the city. It's a very typical process that recreation departments do. Actually, Post Falls and I believe Spokane Valley, they also have recreation agreements with them. We actually had recreation agreement with them quite some time ago. So it's a normal process, and you're probably going to be seeing a lot more of that with McKell on board now.
Oh, okay, great.
sign me up.
Thanks. Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds fun.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask one question, Jen? Is there any cost to the city? I mean, I know we get a little bit of benefit from it, but any cost to you guys or time that you have to spend on it?
The only cost is McKell's slight amount of time working up the agreement and for me to put it to council on the agenda, and some of Sean's time reviewing the agreements, but it's an 80-20 split. And so essentially you can look at it like we're just advertising for them and we get 20%. So
There's no liability or anything, Sean, with
That's a
this?
part of.
There's insurance coverage requirements in there as well as indemnification language for Wiley Waters. Yeah, as most agreements like
Yeah.
this are.
Yeah, I figured.
So.
Go ahead.
So Jen, where do do they have a kiosk here or how do you buy
no,
it?
what we'll do once the agreement is in place, we will put information on the city's recreation page on the website. And so people can register online and then sign up through the city's website as an option. And then go down. I believe they kick off at Peaceful Valley and they raft from Peaceful Valley. So yeah, it's just another route for us to offer our own citizens and make them aware of something that they can do that's in our region and is close by, something we can't offer in our own city.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, there's no other questions. Those in favor of approving the recreation agreement for Wiley E. Waters whitewater rafting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the recreation agreement, general business item 11B with Art and Flow.
Second.
We have a second by Councilmember Kurtz. Any discussion, questions on this one? Okay, not seeing any. Those in favor of approving general business item D, recreation agreement with Art and Flow, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, motion passes 5-0. Council comments? Anything? Okay. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I missed you.
Yeah, no, that's right. One thing I want to report on is I'm really excited about this. Could have reported about it earlier, but just as fine now. You recall this last year, Craig Howard passed away, and at that time, some of us put together a fundraiser to try to get a park bench put out here. I met with Mark. We've looked at some locations where it could be just out of the main entrance, something like that. I'm really pleased to say that as of yesterday, we have achieved the amount of funds that we need for that. And we're in the process of tomorrow on my credit card, ordering the bench with great help of the donations will continue to come in on it. But I'm excited about that. And the additional thing that I'm looking for the approval of the council on, and this is brought up when we first started talking about this, is that by putting the bench out there, it perpetuates what this individual is able to do for the city for a long time. But also what I mentioned at the time, but I haven't brought it up since then, is that I would like to also have a small plaque put on the wall over here, just over the chair where he sat for approximately 20 years. Mentioning that also in conjunction with that. Why I think that would be good is because of what he was able to do and help the city out over that period of time. Now, some may look at this and say, well, should we really consider doing something like that? Well, let me point out the plaque that we have
We've got
over
pegs
here.
up there, right?
Yeah, let me point this one out. And we put that plaque up for this lady who was a fairly regular attendee of the council, as the mayor and I both know. And quite often we would give her rides home at night. But what she's famous for is, you need to read this. She says, "Speak up, I can't hear you." And she would say it from the back of the room. So if we could do something for that, I hope to have the council support that we could also do something at the same time to put a plaque over the chair where he was for all these years.
I think that's a great idea. I know my mom used to sit next to Peg and they'd sit there and nod their heads and together and they commiserate with Craig. So I think that's a great idea.
Thank you. I appreciate I tried to put it across where you would feel guilty to say no.
Mike, where's the bench gonna go?
At the entrance, when you first come in,
Uh-huh.
we've looked at the right-hand side. There's a grassy area there, and it would be in front of where the putting is. We looked at the option to put it on the other side, the left-hand side of the entrance, but we sort of thought it worked there. Now, if people have suggestions, it would look better on the left-hand side. Mark and I can certainly look at that. It just seemed to be that if it was on that side, it would induce somebody as they're walking along to sit and relax there. And I must say that the great thing is that Mark made arrangements 30 days ago. We now have lights at the entry.
That was the Public Works Department,
Yeah,
yes.
very good. Yeah, we got that.
Yeah.
So that's where it's intended to be.
All right. Are there any further council comments? Councilmember Kurtz.
I just wanted to say that I really like the stop sign by the schools. So thank you for that. I think it's working really well. And then also thank you to city staff for everything you guys did for July 4th. It's actually, we've been here 14 years and it's the first time we actually went. Because
First time I missed it.
Scared of the traffic, right? But we got a spot like literally right underneath the fireworks and it was amazing,
Nice.
way more amazing than the kids that we brought with us had never actually been to fireworks before, and people were like, I can feel that in my chest. So thank you to the staff for making that happen. It was a really good event.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Anybody else? Councilmember Van Orman.
Love to go ahead and say that all the meridians, they're getting all cleaned out. They look great. They're
Great.
looking wonderful.
Super.
What is that? The medians.
Well, weeds have a
Oh, the
tendency
medians,
to
yes, yes.
grow,
Mhm.
yes,
Yeah.
and,
Yes.
and,
They look good.
they
They're-
grew quite
they're-
well this year.
They're making really
They're
good
making a
progress.
really good
They look
progress.
good.
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right. We don't have any public hearings or appeals. We have no resolutions, but we do have an ordinance. Rochelle, your turn.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance 308C, amending Ordinance 308 passed by the City Council on December 17th, 2024, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Liberty Lake, Washington, adopting a budget for period January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025, appropriating funds and establishing salary schedules for established positions.
Okay. Kyle, you have anything to add on this? Are there any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, fill me in.
Oh, certain. Okay. So.
Reader's Digest version.
Absolutely. So for our high dollar service agreements, we have insurance is our biggest one. We have legal services, we have IT services. We do periodic reviews of what that service is, what our needs are there potential cost savings? And so I think if we recall as a body, 3 years ago, we went through this process with our insurance company and evaluated different alternatives. There is not an option to bring insurance in-house like there is potentially IT or legal services. And so seeking flexibility from council to do a genuine evaluation of all the options necessitates this to bring that ability on, even if that never happens. So that's essentially the Reader's Digest version of why we would incorporate this into the salary schedule and start diving into that this fall.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, I think we had Mayor Pro Tem first and Councilmember Ball.
No. Oh, so are we gonna put out a, I don't know, like a call for?
Yeah. So, yeah. So
applications.
Yeah,
or-
there's different variations of it. There's RFPs, there's RFQs, there's recruitments.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
All sorts of different avenues to do that.
Okay.
We had Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Kennedy.
Kyle, will you just explain what you explained again? For some reason, it was
Sure.
it was not clicking here and I'm not sure why.
So for everybody that is potentially.
You are changing what to what? Because
Currently, we contract IT services to a third party.
Right.
And so much like we did with our insurance a couple of years ago, we do periodic reviews of that service and of that program to see if there are service gaps, if there are cost savings that we can realize with other options. And that could be nothing. The agreement and the delivery does not change. That means we could potentially realize some cost savings with another entity. That could potentially mean that we realize some cost savings or potential service changes with bringing that in-house. And so essentially that would mean that we have staff to handle that function versus a third party.
Like we used to.
Correct.
And would we, if we decided to go forward in that direction, does the contract that we have through the current company expire at a certain point in which we would be able to make it seamless, or is there going to be overlap?
So if that happened, we would structure it to have some overlap, if that's the case, so that any change in service could be presented with some sort of onboarding period.
And Councilmember Kennedy had a question.
Well, I'll just make a statement. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, for saving me, totally embarrassing myself there. He was so intently explaining that, and I'm reading this and thinking, well, I'm gonna ask about this. Not realizing what you're saying, and then you ask the question, and suddenly I'm going, oh, thank you.
So you good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? All right, okay, so there's no further questions. We do open up ordinances for public comment. So if there's anybody in chambers or online who'd like to make a public comment on this topic only, please, if you're in chambers, give us the yellow sheet. If you're online, please shoot a note to our meeting host, and we will acknowledge your comment. I don't see anybody jumping to the podium here. Is there anybody online? Nope. Okay, so no public comment. We will go to vote on those in favor of, oh yeah, sure.
Don't we have to read this, because it's an amendment, we don't have to read it twice?
Oh, this doesn't say first or second read now that you say that. Thank you. Is this the first or a second?
This is
read?
the first.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay, so no vote. So my apologies. So let's make sure we notate that.
Yep.
Thank you. I hadn't realized that myself. Okay. So next up, no emergency ordinances, introduction of upcoming agenda items. If it's okay with everybody, let's start this discussion with regards to pulling out our calendars and looking at possible special meeting for the climate greenhouse gases topic. So let me
Hard
put
to
my,
know without Dan and
yeah.
Jed here too.
Unless we want to, Mark, you're out. Can somebody shoot out a doodle poll tomorrow?
Sure.
Would that work for everybody?
Oh, the little green.
When?
Yeah. Huh?
When?
Oh, to send out a doodle poll with dates and times. And Lisa, how long do you think, I mean, in council as well, how long do you think we would need to meet on this? Limit it to an hour with a possible extension?
I would defer to council on that. I think it's a 5-minute topic.
Yeah.
I'm with her.
Let's hear it for Lisa.
Yes. Well, I think it probably, instead of everybody kind of trying to triage their calendars sitting here tonight, if somebody can do a doodle poll, something between now and, well, sometime next week, preferably, I'm sure, to get it out of here faster. I'm not available, Thursday or Friday. I'm sure none of us want to do Friday, but hopefully maybe Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday next week. Let's take a look at it. And if we have to meet most of us on Zoom, we can do that too. I can be here and run the meeting. So no obligation to be here in person. So if that's okay with everybody. All right, upcoming workshop items. We obviously had our stuff for tonight is not on there. So governance manual, Councilmember Kurtz, are you good for August 5th?
Feel like I need to check in with Mark to see where we're at with that, but do you feel like
The
We
governance.
believe that August 5th is a good date for that. Yes.
so I should be in touch with you to figure out what my role is in that?
Okay. Sounds
Okay,
good.
all right.
Get that to go.
Resiliency sub-element, Lisa, good, okay. I'm not gonna go past August, so August 19th. Well, that was ballot measure for Town Square project, so we need to move that to just keep that at tentative.
Yeah. Yep.
So we actually don't have any currently, we don't have any other workshops for the 19th. So if there's anything in here that anybody has that, I mean, could we've got a couple TBDs, e-bikes and electric scooters maybe for the 19th. Maybe we can pull that together, get with the PD on some things there.
That's
Okay.
First meeting in
so you don't-
September, it
so you
sounds
don't- Okay, all right, so I will put September, okay. So we'll leave that open. You never know what's gonna happen between now and the next meeting that we might have something added. Unless you got an idea, Mark. Okay,
I
Councilmember
don't.
Kurtz.
Could we look at, would we be in a spot to talk about the youth commission ordinance?
Well, I think we were waiting until we talked about waiting till after school starts so we can engage with the high school
Yes.
and try to see what kind of participation we can get. And come here, Pro Tem.
And perhaps we could add to the August 19th, a discussion about the MFTE ordinance.
Ooh.
Would that be too soon?
just a little more information about it. Yes.
Yeah, and about what we could possibly do.
Kyle, does that give us enough time to do research?
Yeah, August
It's an
19th.
option. It's not time sensitive. We could push it out, but
Okay, MFT, right?
yeah, MFTE.
For August 19th. And if we get closer and you're running up at crunch time, we can always adjust, but let's shoot for that. Okay. All right, so after that, we have, again, we're up to citizen comments. One last time for the public to weigh on anything we talked tonight or anything else. If there's nobody here in chambers jumping up. Anybody online for a final comment tonight? Not seeing any? All right, so we have no executive session. And with that, we have no further business. We will adjourn 9:15.